Fine. Council, can I make sure that your mics are live? When the clock strikes 30, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for everybody being here. Appreciate it. All right, I see 6:30. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank those that are here in person, sitting in front of us. I want to thank those that are tuning in online. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to Katie to take roll for this evening's meeting.
Schumate.
Here.
Cox.
Here.
Cosmore.
Here.
McNabb.
Here.
Molnar.
Here.
Valentine.
Here.
Wood.
Here.
We have no absent members this evening. With that being said, I'd love to move into approval of the agenda. Council, in your packets in front of you and members of public for the agenda that you've seen publicly shared, I'd be looking for a motion to approve our agenda this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Motion by Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Cosmore. Any discussion on this evening's agenda? Katie, please call roll.
Cox.
Yes.
Cosmore. Yes. McNabb.
Yes.
Molnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Well, members of our public, it is now your time. We'd like to open up our public comment section. As you know, we do a public comment up front, and then we do a public comment towards the close of our meeting. So at this time, if there's any members of public in the room that would like to address council, please approach the podium and state your name and address and any comments you have to share with us.
Hi.
Well, hello.
I'm coming up here, but I
And
will.
can you make sure that light is green for me?
It is.
Perfect.
Tina Kuzma, 30495 Bayview. So I shared with you guys, I thought I was just going to you, so I'm sorry for the sloppy handwriting. But just some thoughts. I didn't have a whole lot of time this week to go through all of that. I did want to come up though, because last week some things were said and I don't want those to be the last resonating factors in everybody's mind. Key being, it was trying to be stressed that it was an invasion of privacy, especially with rentals. And with that, I don't know what you're hiding that you're so worried somebody's coming in. Anytime you're selling your home or anything, people are in and out of your home. Appraisers, people looking at your home, inspectors, it's not an invasion of privacy type thing. But key points to think about with landlord-tenant, and being that I've been in the real estate industry of some fraction way longer than I care to admit. Rentals do have a negative impact on any city that they're in. They do. It goes against ours, like our personal, even though it's not our rental, that goes into a qualification with insurance, right? Because if you buy too many rentals, that impacts what you're paying for insurance. It also decreases home value. The more rentals you have in a community, the lower your market value is. So this is everybody's business. It's not a government overreach, right? We all live here together. And there are times, I'm not gonna lie, I think there's far too many laws and far too much government, but that's not one of them. We're all in a community. We heard a gentleman with an issue with a drain spout. And if you don't have laws on how to get along, because some people don't have good morals or good values, you have to have a law stating this is your right and this is your right, especially with landlord-tenant situations. I've been in that arena as well, and that's kind of a deplorable little thing. Can hear a lot of landlords say that I'm a phenomenal landlord, and they're not. It's facts are there, they're not. I've seen the reports, I've seen the text messages, I've seen the conditions. it's very imperative. If you don't maintain your furnace and your renters are using other means of heat, obviously that's going to put them in danger, but it's also putting me in danger and whoever else is around. You're going to have a fire, you know? So I just don't want that to be what plays in public's mind of, you know, who are you to say, and you're the government, stay out of my business. Being a landlord is a personal choice. It's an investment. It's to build an investment portfolio. It's with the means of making income. So having inspections and having to maintain your property, it's part of doing business. And you can easily choose not to be a landlord. I gave you examples of different cities that are very, very, very strict. Wyandotte is one of, not only for landlord-tenant, but for resale. You can't even turn your water on if you don't have a C of O or the buyer's accepting the repairs. And they're they rental are, basically they're every 2 years for cities that have it. And most cities downriver have it. I can't think of one off the top of my head that does not have a rental inspection. And they are every 2 years, regardless of whether the tenant lives in there or not. And even if your tenant destroys something within your home, that's your responsibility. You have to have property insurance. The renter only has rental insurance, like you would have for an apartment. You as a landlord, you have to have property insurance. So I could go on and on and on. I don't think the magnitude, and right now we have 20% rental. That's obviously including apartments and stuff. But when you're a small community, that's a lot. You got a million people and 20%, that's not a lot. That is a lot. And it's called transient population, As far as, also with the landlord tenant, when somebody becomes a landlord, that's an unfortunate cycle because a lot of people then are stuck in that renting. And then the landlord ups they're saving to buy a house. Landlord ups the rent, they're stuck. So this is a way, you have to have checks and balances, and those things go untaken care of and dismissed, disregarded. It becomes not only a detriment for the people living there, but all of us living around it. And if you're not up to code on, and it's the mechanicals, it's not going in there, your doorknobs, whatever. It's the mechanicals is what should always be the prominent part. And resale inspections, as a homeowner, I think they're awful, because if I want to sell my house, right, then it becomes a detriment to me. But realistically, I'm okay with it, because that becomes a bargaining chip then, I'll lower my price, you assume the repairs. It's a no-brainer. It's not as horrendous or horrific as it's being made out to be. It's actually a good thing. A lot of our homes are older, so like me and Rob are in agreement on that is some of the things like my house is an old cabin. Things have been done to it, and I think it was, couple uncles and had a case of beer and let's do this type thing. So I've had to correct those errors, So a lot of things, you're not going to be able to bring it up to 2021 code, right? I don't even have those materials in my house. I still have plaster walls. So the point being, you have to be, in theory, but they all have to be safe. Your electrical has to be safe. That's not even an option. And not only for me as the person living there, but then I'm also liable to the people around me. And if I'm not going to maintain, it just like with the outside of your home, we don't want a bunch of things that attract rats. And, look at Lincoln Park, look at Allen Park. They have a huge problem. We don't want that. So it's not overreach. We all have to work and live among each other, and we have to do it in a respectful manner. And without certain guidelines, without certain rules, without the certain, you can't have this for too long out there. Then you have that fighting that you saw, and nobody knows what to do with that, right? Where do we go? You guys aren't getting along. We don't really have a law. We don't have anything we can enforce. And then that just becomes a horrible situation. And now you have two neighbors that can't stand where they live. So that's what this all leads into, too. You don't want to be out there screaming and fighting with my neighbors. I don't want to be calling the cops on my neighbors. Just do what you're supposed to do. Go according to code, and we're good, So I could go on, but I heard a lot of negative, and I don't want that to be the rumblings that go on in the city, only hearing the bad aspects of it or what it's taking from somebody. It's not. It's just making sure that the playing field is level at all times. And especially, you know, when you're looking at landlord-tenant situations, a lot of time you are looking at somebody, I don't want to say underprivileged, I don't want to say that, I won't, usually people rent, how can I say it politically correct? When they're in a bad situation, right? They're either coming out of a marriage or people don't always opt to rent, is what I'm trying to say. So if I can say it in a correct way. And so those are the people you don't want exploited and you don't want them taken advantage of, you know? And that becomes a very easy situation where, and like I said, I've seen the court cases, I've seen the files this big of the text messages, the pleading, the pictures, the thises and the that's, and all the landlord's doing is upping the rent, and these houses are full of mold, and there's broken windows, and heating elements that don't work, and you don't want that, you know, and you don't want that for Gibraltar. I mean, I think we're a step above that, right? And I think asking people to be mindful that obviously that's your investment portfolio, you've done that to make money, you've done that to have money at the end of life, right? That sell those off and those will become your retirement. But in the meantime, you are responsible, not only for the people inside the home, but outside the home as well, so. And hopefully you guys could read my scribbles. I didn't know it was going to everybody, but obviously if you have questions on it, I'm willing to answer.
Tina, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to review, and just for everybody's awareness, making sure we're on the same page. Council, you received Tina's review of IPMC as it relates to the ongoing discussions, her feedback on that document, because Councilman Molnar had also performed a review, and then Tina's broader perspective in your email body as well around the topic of rental inspections, neighboring community considerations, and the importance you feel it has for Gibraltar. So I just want to thank you for spending the time on it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we want to lean on expertise and experience. On that matter, you mentioned a lot of longstanding real estate experience. Can you just highlight your current role just for folks as they...
Now I'm back in title. So I've done, and you know, that's another thing too. I have my notes and I didn't follow them. Back in the day when the market crashed, I was in the real estate sector of it, and that was probably the worst things, that and landlord tenant was two of the things that morally collided with me on the most. And so when you guys see properties that are rentals and you see that it's owned by a Michigan LLC, high probability it's not owned by anybody in Michigan. When we crashed, people bought up properties by bulk. And so they were 60 to 70 houses, and they were all over. They were in, you know, this bulk package you purchased. You got some in Detroit, some in Warren, some in Riverview, they were everywhere. There's still, to this day, a proportionate amount of downriver owned by people in Israel, Korea, Canada, Saudi Arabia. They're not even owned by people here. So, you know, back then it was, I worked in the REO business, and I fought the banks more so than went with them. But, and a lot of properties were bought up, and now we're struggling. That's why the market's the way it is right now, is because so many properties are now rentals and they're not letting them go. They're not selling them. And so people don't have the option to buy. Taylor is just inundated with rentals, you know, a lot of Southgate, a lot of cities. And these people, and we still, these LLCs from Israel, they have several LLCs, corporations, companies, and the list of people that have ownership in them is 3 pages long. We're still doing transactions with them. I mean, they're slowly letting some of them go, but they bought mass quantity of Michigan, mass quantity. You know, so when you're looking at that and you see out Michigan LLC, high probability they just pay that guy a lump sum fee to put them on that articles of organization, and they have the contact here, but he has nothing to do with any of that, you know. So I've been in every aspect of it. I've been a realtor. I've worked all in the REO industry, been in title, been in loan, and I'm back to title. So.
Tina, thank you so much. Council, any questions or comments for Tina?
No, thank you for the education. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know.
Yeah, no problem.
We appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to our members of public. Any other public comment for this evening? If so, can you please approach the podium and state your name and address? Going once, going twice. Okay, great. Well, public, thank you for continuing to share your perspectives as we navigate the topics. And with that, I'd like to jump into our consent agenda. Council, in front of you and in your packet, you'll see items A through G on the consent agenda. We have item A, bills reference number 19A and 19B. Item B, payroll number 890. Item C, city council minutes of 3/25/2024. Item D, city council special minutes of 4/2/2024. Item E, planning commission minutes of 2/20/2024. Item F, DDA minutes of 2/20/2024. And item G, recreation commission minutes of 4/2/2024. And council, I'd be looking for a motion to approve our consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, A through G.
We have a motion by Cosmar. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Valentine. Council, any discussion on items A through G and consent agenda? Okay, Katie, please call roll.
Hasmar,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Mulnar,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Next on our agenda is communications, for which we have none to file and receive this evening. So that would bring me to my report this evening. I have 4 items, items A through D for council and our public. I'll go one by one. So let's start with item A, which is our city administrator hiring process. Council, I actually have 2 topics that I'd like to discuss regarding this city administrator hiring process. The first one is to profusely thank Vince for an incredible amount of service to the city of Gibraltar. You've been an amazing partner, expert, and we're incredibly grateful to have found you and that you accepted your interim role. Council, with that being said, I'd like to ask council to consider Vince's continued stay in a part-time consulting capacity. We've spoken with finance. We've spoken with Vince, we've spoken with other department heads and other members of council, and I wanted to have this discussion this evening. The second topic is we're going to be tasked with making a decision on who our next city administrator is going to be for the city of Gibraltar. Recognizing that Vince's last day on paper currently is May 10th, and that Vince will not be a part of that consideration process for a full-time city administrator for Gibraltar moving forward, I'd like to ask council to consider 3 things. One is the transition handoff and the continuity of the transition. You know, Vince has been in this role. I think he's done an excellent job in managing the needs of a city administrator position in the interim. And in order to allow a very smooth transition and handoff based on Vince's expertise and experience so far in Gibraltar, that's going to be one, I think, important element of considering a part-time consulting role for Vince. The second thing that I think is really important to consider is the mentorship opportunity. Our candidates, albeit very strong candidates that we'll talk about tonight, Vince has very deep and very wide experience that he brings to the table and associate expertise. And so I think no matter what candidate council chooses this evening, Vince would be a great mentor, a great expert, a great set of expertise to help not only with the transition process, but for the process moving forward of all the things we have to navigate. So I think that's going to be really important. The third thing is that part-time capacity for Vince would really allow us to have a really strong safety net of expertise and experience so that as we navigate what is the breadth and depth of topics we have in front of us, that we can bounce off certain items. The new city administrator obviously is a lead for that role, off of Vince to make sure that we thoroughly vet the decisions we're making, that nothing falls through the cracks of the operation that we've established. So it's really those 3 things that I think are so important to consider. Now, what I'm proposing to council, and I'm grateful for Vince being an advocate for exploring this option if council so chooses to approve, is to establish a part-time consulting agreement with Vince that would entail up to 10 hours per week. And we've landed on a financial consideration of an hourly rate. I would love to share that with council, which we think is appropriate at $60 per hour for those up to 10 hours. And to do that consulting agreement, we'd like to establish that through the end of 2024. I think it accomplishes the 3 goals that I set out in front of you. on this discussion. I think it would be an amazing thing for the city of Gibraltar and for our next city administrator, who is going to be here for the long term in that role. And it would, again, be 10 hours a week up to, at 60 hours, $60 per hour through 2024. Now, obviously, in that part-time capacity, we wouldn't be incurring all the broader benefits and other expenses that you would have with a full-time city administrator. So I think the finance director, Amy, has assured us that this is something that we could afford and that would be very rational, given the benefit we feel this could offer. Those three objectives, I think we would allow them to be accomplished. And I'd be asking for council's motion to consider taking that action. Before that, I think one thing to consider is, we're going to be here as a second topic, making a decision on a city administrator for the long term of Gibraltar. With that being said, if council does choose to approve Vince's part-time consulting role, I would ask that start date be contingent on the start date of the new hire. Meaning, if we have a start date of the new hire defined, which we may not have tonight or in the future for the next few meetings we are navigating together, that we make that motion contingent on that start date, so we have that start date flexibility when those pieces fall in place. So I want to throw that out there for discussion for council. I think it'd be a great thing for the city of Gibraltar. Vince, we're just very grateful for what you've done in the interim, and I'll stop there.
I'm going to make a motion that retain Vince Pastu as our part-time mentor and counselor through the year of 2024 at 10 hours a week, $60 an hour.
Second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Council, any discussion?
I think it's probably a good idea.
I do too. I would ask that council, as we've now had a motion and a second, considers, Katie, maybe you can read what you have, and considers that contingency, which is the start date contingent on the solidification of our long-term city administrator role. But Katie, can you read what you have?
I have to retain Vince Pestu as a part-time consultant for the city administrator, not to exceed 10 hours a week at $60 an hour, effective on the start date of the new city administrator through the end of 2024.
Legal counsel is advising that, yeah, we'll have to put together a consulting agreement, and that specifics would define what you've all approved, if you do choose to approve in the vote, as well as the start date, which would be pending the hire and successful start date defined of our next city administrator. That being said, Katie, can you please call roll?
McNabb.
Yes.
Molnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Cosmore.
Yes.
Great. That motion is carried. Vince, we are incredibly grateful, and we'll obviously work on the agreement in partnership with council and our experts, and look forward to the second topic, which is under the process. We are here to talk about the hire of our city administrator for the long term of City of Gibraltar. And I am really excited, just as a backdrop for everybody. You know, as we embarked on this process, we had 11 applicants. I'm really grateful and frankly proud of council and members of the public for all their perspectives. I think we had some very thorough discussions on the process, how we navigate that process, which then ultimately led to 4 interviews. Those interviews were broadcasted to the members of the public and obviously allowed council to assess each of those candidates on a series of questions. So I want to thank everybody for that backdrop. What I'm here to pose to council tonight is to have a fruitful discussion around what we want to do with the hire of a city administrator for the city of Gibraltar. My task was, as a part of the council discussions, was to try and collate the recommendations from our department heads. Now, obviously, council, you're here making the voting decisions for the city of Gibraltar, but I wanted to just cut right to the chase, and then I thought we could open up to council's perspective. Based on the collective department head recommendations, and if you recall, we asked all department heads and all council to assess each candidate and if they felt they'd be a good fit for the city of Gibraltar and prioritize 1 to 4 their hiring recommendation. Across all department heads, the order of number 1 and number 2 varied, but it was John and Ryan. So I want to be very direct that across all of our department heads, the top 2 considerations were John and Ryan. Some department heads had John first, other department heads had Ryan first. But I wanted to maybe just focus our discussion in that direction, which is, you know, department heads, that was their perspective on John and Ryan. And so I want to open to the council, because what I thought would be efficient and effective for our discussion is does council have any objections to John and Ryan being 1 and 2 respectively, or again, ranked in whatever order you feel, as the focus of tonight's discussion. Meaning, does council object in any capacity to those being our top 2 candidates for discussion this evening, for which we can now have the relative discussion?
I object. Actually, John was my last choice. I thought he was number 4.
Mine too.
Yes, he has a lot of DPW experience. He probably could go out there right now and fix a water main break. But there's a lot more to being the city administrator. And to be honest with you, the more he talked, some red flags came up in my head, and that's why I put him number 4.
Incredible. Thank you, Councilman Valentine. This is the discussion I want to have. Councilwoman Cosmore, do you want to add any color to that?
He was my 4th pick too. See, my number 1 was Aaron, so I guess I was way off compared to everybody else. But I think I'm staying with you, that he was just, I didn't think he was given the answers that he were given, and the more he went, he didn't know anything about the city. And I think in an interview like this, when you're coming in, you need to know a little about what you're coming into. You know, he didn't, although he said he looked at a sign, it's like, especially with him being, us being part of the ADW with him, he should have known a little more about us, our city. He really should have. Like I said, I did not think a lot of the answers, he answered the questions that we asked. And I do get that he was a little nervous. You could tell he was very nervous, but still, I just did not get a good read from him at all.
I think this is the beauty of the path we took, which is to have an independent, unbiased perspective from all parties. I did the same thing in the department heads. Each one of them submitted this independently, and I aggregated it. So that's why I want to have this dialogue. So, council collectively, we have Councilwoman Cosmore, Councilman Valentine, who have expressed objection to John being on the priority list for hire. Broader council, share any perspective you have. Perhaps the question could be, how does your, maybe we can go, Councilman Cox, how does your perspective relate to John and Ryan being the priorities from a department head perspective?
I had them listed at 1 and 2 myself on my sheets. Do I have reservations on a couple of them? Yes. Did I get nobody knocked my socks off, I'll just say that. But if you're asking my ranking, those were in the 1 and 2 category.
Okay, great, thank you. And
I
I
did
know,
have Ryan as number 2 on mine. He was my number 2.
appreciate that. Councilwoman Wood, any perspective you'd like to share?
Well, I kind of agree with Rick that I chose, well, I did speak to a lot of people at the city, you know, some of our personnel here, because they're working with these people. I'm not going to see him very much. So I kind of went with John, just because he does have more DPW experience, and that's what we're looking for. We have a lot of issues with the DPW and that type of work. I don't know if city administrator, like office work is, you know, is something that he can just go ahead and pick up. Ryan also was in charge of a village, not a city, and I understand that that's different. It's different, you know, way of working, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they do in a village that's different. But, so that's why I chose John as the first one.
Okay. How did that relate to, where did Ryan fit in that perspective for you? Was it, what was your 1 and 2 perspective?
Yeah, he would be second.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Ryan, so you're aligned with Councilman Cox and department heads on the 1 and 2, whatever priority they are, they're still both in the top bucket. Councilman Molnar, I know you talked to other council members, but also love your perspective individually, or any other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I echo Rick as well. My socks are still on. So, the candidates that, I think the most important thing for a future city administrator here, and I've said this before, is that when a resident comes in, that they can greet them and say, how can I help you, and mean it. So I'm hopeful that those 2 candidates, I'm hopeful that all 4 of them would do just that. But I did look at the 2 most likely that would be able to do that, would be Ryan and John.
Thank you.
And like I said, with Ryan, the only thing I was a little hesitant about, because he doesn't have a lot of experience, like I know he said in the village, he had never been in charge of the police department, so he don't know that aspect of it. But he did have, you know, knowledge of being involved in the villages. And he does kind of overhead everything like we do here. He's a little more like we do here. He's gonna have to be like HR, he's gonna have to be DPW. So that, I mean, that, on Ryan's, I gave him points for that. It's just, I thought he just didn't have a lot of experience, but now if we're gonna have Vince here to maybe mentor him, that would be a big difference. That would,
Thank you.
I would pop up more towards him if I knew he had that support.
Okay.
I think some of it is the stuff he'd have to learn.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cosmore. Councilman
I-
McNabb.
I'm on the same lines. I think that a second interview might calm them down a little bit. I think the first interview, you only get the scale of who they are. They're nervous. I was with John and Ryan too, but I think John, he came off kind of hard, maybe a little too, I wouldn't want to use the word arrogant, but he fills all the boxes. That's what I look at. But I think a second interview or something like that, you might be able to, you can't feel out somebody on the first interview. That's my opinion. You got to have a second chance to find out who they really are.
Yeah.
I think just like everything we've done, I think effectively I want to do this right, not rushed, especially with the backdrop of having Vince's
No, we
support
don't
in the
wanna
interim. So it sounds like we're all conceptually aligned on that mindset, but I also want to be mindful of, Vince will have a end date of what is now May 10th, right, for the full-time position, so we'll just be mindful of that timeline. So let's go back, okay, this is incredibly helpful. So it sounds like, in summary, department heads, council, we have two council members that have, frankly, stronger objections to John, right? Is there any strong objections to Ryan? Let's ask that question. So is there any strong objections to Ryan? Meaning, did Ryan fall 3 or 4 on anybody's list? Okay. So then really the question becomes, like, maybe we could talk about, I'm hearing Councilman McNabb, right? You're suggesting maybe consideration of a second interview. If we go down that path, right, if that's what the council chooses to do, right? I want to make sure we're intentional on, like, what would that be designed to uncover, right? Or any other questions or concerns we could more directly address in that. So maybe if you don't mind, I think at a high level, I'll just summarize some of the feedback that I got from the department heads collectively on John and Ryan as two candidates. And then maybe we could just have a council discussion on if, for example, we do want to have a second interview with those candidates. And if so, what content or focus areas would we have for that? So for John, and I'm being high level, so department heads, please share if you have any more details you'd like to add. So for John, there is strengths in DPW experience from the ground up and the ability to apply that knowledge and experience to City of Gibraltar. There was commentary on, his relatively local nature, meaning geographically. There's commentary on the water license, right? And just having that water license has financial upside for the City of Gibraltar, as we're currently paying somebody else to carry that license for us. There was comments around his leader, and that was from like an operational perspective. So as DPW director, his people oversight and process oversight. There was comments around, I don't want to frame it as a concern, more of an observation on maybe being a little more authoritative in regards to his demeanor and presentation. And there was comments around, the lack of city management experience, right? And thus really more focus on the DPW role. So that's a high-level summary. Department heads, please, if you want to add any color, please do that. The second candidate, obviously, that I'm going to be highlighting is for Ryan. I think some of the upside was roughly about 5 years or so of actual city or village manager experience, his education in public administration, to couple that real-world experience, the nature of a smaller village role and how that might have you wearing lots of hats, albeit some hats are not being worn. But the back, and then some of the energy and culture fit was felt. And I frame that as like interpersonal skills or the vibe, if you will, of what people detected on kind of his interpersonal ability and interaction with people. Obviously, some of the cons or considerations was the inverse of the lack of some experience in some areas, such as what you highlighted, Councilman Cosmore, and the lack of, I would say, longer-term experience, meaning roughly 5 years in that role of real-world experience, and the fact that that was at a smaller scale village. So with that being said, I just want to frame, just to start the dialogue, that's some high-level observations. So here we are, council, with a potential thought of doing second interviews, for which we could act on, as soon as time allowed. I do see upside in those second interviews, because those second interviews could also dive deeper on some of the tactical considerations around like, when would you be able to start? Would also allow us to address some of the specific areas which you want more information on. So I'll open up to you all. Council, I guess, any questions or comments related to the pros and cons that you'd like to add to or discuss? And then, council, where do we want to go from here?
Well, my second choice was Ryan Mattis, but I think we're forgetting something. We got Vincent Pastiu we're going to have for the 2024. I don't think you can ask for a better mentor. Yeah, he may lack some experience, but I'm sure he'll get that knowledge from Vince.
I strongly agree with that sentiment. And I think that's something for council to consider, which is, does council feel comfortable, like today, making that type of decision on a candidate like Ryan? Or does council want to take some time to further interview, further gather information? Maybe now is an appropriate time too to Vince, we had discussed going, kind of diving on some references. I'll tell you, I'm a big believer in checking references that are not the ones listed to really get a good glean on some intel. Vince was able to explore some references. Vince, maybe if you want to speak to what we have today, because I think that no matter what decision we make, there should be more action done on the reference exploration. Vince, you want to take that?
Well, just, I had a couple calls out, I don't know if you can hear me okay, pull up the mic here. You know, with John, I got a couple of contacts, you know, about his experience in Romulus, you know, more as a crew leader with the water department, and, you know, was favorable in the sense that, you know, very kind of gung-ho, get the job done, do what it takes in that regard. Didn't need a lot of hand-holding and guidance. And the other was with that reference that he actually included with his cover letter was, again, very similar type of comment, just you know, ready to kind of go and get things done that needs to get done. The one was a little concerned when with his knowledge of him, in that I'm not gonna say it's a concern. It just didn't have a lot of administrative responsibilities with the position in Romulus, but you know, obviously he's moved on to Sumter Township and had taken on more responsibility with the Public Works. With Ryan, I didn't get, I left a couple of calls and didn't get back to me. One, he was up in Oscoda, called up there and didn't get anything back. But he also didn't, we didn't ask, and nor did he include any references in there that we could find. So that was the limited effort that I had, and limited response with the two of them. That maybe the one thing with it is to try and secure some more references and a little more background on them. But, you know, it's also part, if you make a conditional offer, what you go digging for too as well. So, you know, it's just, you know, I always prefer to have the references on the front end, but, you know, you can dig deeper in once you've made that conditional offer to one of the candidates and find out whether it's a good fit or not.
Councilman Mueller?
Yeah, to Vince's point, a couple of, maybe a month ago or so, about the prospectus of trying to have unanimous council support to show support for our, you know, new staff leader. I think if we offered a conditional and then it came back that they didn't pass a background check or something, that might leave a bad taste in the other one's mouth. So I like the idea of having a second interview. It buys us time and ability to do background checks on both of them, dig a little bit deeper into references. And maybe if the second go-around is by committee, it's something that we could talk about financial considerations and what their expectations, desires, goals are. Might be a different setting that would be a little bit more freely conversational and less back and forth in a formality type of setting. So that would be my recommendation, is to go a little bit deeper on those two candidates, check their references, and then do a second interview in a less formal setting. That'd be my recommendation.
I think it's a good recommendation to consider at council. I think we need more information, it sounds like. I don't think we're at a point of unanimous decision. I think we need more reference information and probably a more deep dive assessment on some of these candidates. The good news is our actions to date have led us to 2. So I think it would be rushed, not right, to make a decision this evening. Full agreement with that. So I'll bounce this back to your court, which is in Vince's hire, and the exploration of candidates, we did have like an interim manager committee assembled. That was Councilwoman Wood, Councilman McNabb, myself included. So I guess really council needs to think about that today, which is how do we want to set off on that exploration? I know even you, Councilman Molnar, and I had talked about like taking a drive up to Ortonville, you know, like just going and immersing ourselves and asking the questions. So I'm all in to explore, and I guess that's what I would ask what council decides today is a motion to establish a committee, if you so chose, that could help develop questions that we need to focus on for a second interview and coordinate those second interviews. Could help spearhead the investigation on references in partnership with Vince. That seems like the most logical path today. I would just ask that we act with a time-bound mindset that May 10th will come, and we want to make sure our bases are covered, just like I think we did beautifully with the interim manager. So ball's in your court, council. If a motion for a committee is in order, then that's your call.
Yeah, and I think that the other consideration too is that if we, with May 10th coming, a month from now, and our next council meeting being 2 weeks from now, those folks are going to have to give their current employers, or most likely give their current employers at least 2 weeks' notice, probably more. So another consideration for timelines that we ought to,
Well, we got Vince until May 10th at least, so I don't think there's a big hurry.
And
I'm all for the selection committee doing this instead
Okay.
of us all being part
Agreed.
of the interview process again.
I think it's heavy. So you have the baseline, which is it was McNabb, Wood, myself, city administrator, Vince, as the previous committee for the interim manager, right? Obviously, he wasn't there because he was the one we hired. But council, it's up to you to motion for that. And I would ask that we consider trying to make a recommendation back to council on the 22nd, our next meeting, so that we could have the right action and thus timeline of allowing that candidate to put notice to their current employer, if that's the reality, and line up the stars to align for May 10th target for Vince.
I will say, though, the one thing, I don't know if we should do it as a committee or do it as a whole, because I know myself, I would like to do a second interview. I have no issues with that, but, because it would really take me a lot, it would take a lot of convincing me for me to pick John. I would really have to see him in a second interview before I would, because right now, he's my bottom. So I don't, you know,
I think
for
it
me to
would,
feel comfortable voting for him, I'd really want to be part of that process of see his second interview to see, he might come in here and knock my socks off the second interview. You know, and I don't know if anybody else is in that position or not, but I know for myself.
Put
I think-
Marcia on the committee.
I think that's very astute, which is I think Councilwoman Cosmore should be a part of that committee for the reasons mentioned, right? We want to signal a unanimous support of who is our next city administrator. I think you've always been constructive in your mindset in approaching those topics. So I would ask that you are a part of that committee for the reasons mentioned. And Councilman Valentine, I know you feel aligned with Marcia.
Yeah.
But I hope you've obviously advocated for her alignment. So there we go. So there's a start. Now, with that, somebody's gonna have to come off of that committee, right? So Councilman McNabb or Councilwoman Wood, for a quorum purpose, would have to step off to have Marcia involved in that.
I would step down.
I think you're-
So
He
that.
had experience.
So then that would land us in a situation where if council so chooses the motion, it'd be Councilwoman Wood, Councilwoman Cosmore, myself, and Vince as the committee to land a recommendation on the 22nd for council. Motion is in your court, council.
So you're planning to go to Ortonville and talk to people there?
I'd love to make that trip.
Yeah, I've done that before. We've
think
done that
you
with
should.
superintendents we've went and visited.
I think it's imperative, and it will also allow us to dig a little more on the reference front. So really, the committee would be tasked with exhaustively exploring references, working to address any shared concerns via questions and an interview process with the goal of converging that recommendation on the 22nd so that we have appropriate time to make a hiring process align with Vince's timeline here.
I'm pretty happy with that committee.
So motion and being council's order.
I'll make the motion to create the hiring committee with yourself, Mr. Mayor, City Administrator Vince Pastu, Councilwoman Dorothy Wood, Councilwoman Marcia Cosmore.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Sorry, was that second by
Yeah, I'll second.
Valentine. Any discussion on that committee? Katie, can you call roll?
Mulnar,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Cosmore,
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
All right, so that will close out item number A, which is the city administrator hiring process. Thank you for a great discussion.
I do say something, because I know there's one we didn't mention, and I want to make sure that we interviewed, and I don't think he's ready for the job, but he's our resident. I think he did a wonderful interview for him, for his age, and the future, I definitely see him working in the city, but I just want to make sure that we keep him on our radar for committees. Maybe start giving him some of his training and help him a little bit along his career path, but, because I did think he did a good job, and he really impressed me.
If I could say, so, my first choice was Dominic Pope. I know he doesn't have any experience, but I don't think that matters because we got Vince to mentor him. He's local. He's already tried to help the city with things. I think he's eager, and I think he'd give 100%. I'm not so sure about that, the other gentleman. So my first choice was Dominic Pope. I know it's on deaf ears at this time, but,
No, no deaf ears here. I think you also had, if I heard you correctly, support of Ryan, who was another priority
my
candidate.
second choice.
Yep, so I think the stars are aligning towards a path, given that we have to have a lot of people's minds to assume that path. So absolutely nothing discounted there, Councilman Valentine. Thank you for sharing that. I agree. I think he's put his hand up in a very constructive and helpful way in many areas, for which Vince is well aware. And that's the beauty of a resident population that's incredibly involved and passionate about the city of Gibraltar, just like we all are. So only good things to come with the path ahead on that front, for sure.
I think he's got a really bright future.
Yeah.
I really do.
Absolutely agree. Thank you, council. That'll close item A, unless there's any further comments. Let's get to item B. So item letter B is going to be rental inspections. I thought we had a really good discussion amongst council on this topic. Simply put, council, while we don't take action in that forum, council seemed pretty unanimously aligned that any multi-unit rental property, we would want to have inspections every 3 years. So let's start there. The crux of the discussion then converged to, what do we do with single? How do we manage that? And so that's really where we're at today. Now, what we've done in the interim, since our last discussion, and just to paint some of the broader context, right? We have, and Sam, you could, maybe if you don't mind, do you mind just coming to the podium? Sam heads up our McKenna Building Department, so I want to make sure Sam could speak to any specifics, because I'm by no means an expert in this area. But I want to give you a little backdrop before we dive into this topic. There's over 800 rentals in the city of Gibraltar. There's 354 in the report you were given in the certificate phase based on the work that McKenna's done. When you think about that number, right, the backdrop is really important here. We were educated. We're new to these seats, some of us, most of us in some cases. We were educated that for a period of time, there probably wasn't a lot being done with the inspections, right? Here we are with McKenna, who Laura, the partner, has really ramped up her focus on, according to our language, the city of Gibraltar, starting to act upon the inspection process. That means notifying rentals. That means filling out the data and making sure we have available data on the reports we're able to generate internally. That means pushing for rental inspections and the associated payment and process for that, right? That action was always a policy, or something we should have, quote unquote, been doing on paper, right? Is being done by McKenna. We got 354. The additional data point you had asked for, and that's 354 out of over 800 rentals in the city of Gibraltar. The additional data point you asked for was, previously, there was no documentation of single unit happening. So what Laura had shared with you, and it was passed on to council, was there's 39 singles in scope right now, right? The strategic question for you all as council is, our policy says, on paper, it says, do rental inspections for every rental in your city, right? You've all aligned that multi-unit should always be done every 3 years, like clockwork, right? The strategic discussion today is, what do we do with singles? And what I would ask council to consider is, there's one topic to discuss is, council support so we can give guidance to McKenna around, do we enforce single unit inspections? That's a guidance to discuss, right? Meaning tomorrow, with council support in motion, right? Give direction to Laura and McKenna to go pursue all of those rentals, 800 plus in total, including multi and single, right? And the enforcement of our language. That's a bigger question, right? There's also a lot of underlying detail there. How do you manage the enforcement, right? Meaning you enforce it, meaning you signal a letter, you follow up. This has all been described to you. I'm just giving a summary. You follow up, and then you start considering if your enforcement does entail tickets and ultimately court involvement, right? So there's different extremes that council and thus our McKenna partners can take this enforcement process to. But the bigger picture I think is important to discuss and start with is, does council motion to give direction to McKenna to enforce our language and rental inspect single units? So that's the bigger question. Now, a couple things that it's been shared with you already, but I want to make sure it's clear. Vince, myself, Laura had started compiling for you, based on our discussions, some considerations, right? There's a couple considerations here. We have Tina, who addressed you in public comment and also provided you a written email. Part of it was IPMC related, but a part of it was more directed at like strategically, conceptually, the rental inspection process. So you have that, right? You also had Brandon, a rental owner in the city of Gibraltar, who I must add did pay the fees, right, and did get, working with McKenna to do the inspections. You had Brandon share, the appetite for grandfathering or having a sign off, right, a waiver, if you will, to perform the inspections, right? So we have residents in short-term, or not short-term, we have residents and rental owners that have both came and shared perspective. I also passed out to you a letter that was shared with our building department from Councilman Molnar. You all have that copy in front of you. I'll let him speak to anything you'd like to on that topic. You have Laura's perspective, McKenna's perspective, right? And Sam, I'll turn it over to you for any color you want to add. I'll stop talking in a second. Laura was just commenting on her experiences in other cities. She's serviced a lot of other cities, right? Her experience was that other cities have rental inspections as a requirement, and the only exemption or waiver she's aware of is for immediate family members. Vince, please keep me honest. Sam, keep me honest. But that was an exemption that some cities have explored, right? But McKenna, again, with the caveat that they're the building department, not voting members of council for the direction, McKenna's perspective is other cities are enforcing their rental inspection requirements. The only waiver or exemption to that would be an immediate family member renting a home. So council, I'm looking to you for guidance on what do we do to give guidance to our McKenna partners on how they manage rental inspections. And I'll stop there. Sam, Vince, anything else to add before we turn it over to discussion?
Sure, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and esteemed members of council. There were a couple different things that I just wanted to touch on, and feel free to interrupt me at any time, ask questions. Firstly, I can't more wholeheartedly second what Tina said when she came up tonight. She made a lot of really good points about the importance of rental inspection programs. And we can just kind of run through some of the issues that were brought up during, your study session. Firstly, the issue of waivers. I've administered rental departments in a couple dozen Michigan communities, and I'm familiar with them in communities across the state. And I can verify that Laura's correct that a waiver doesn't generally exist outside of members in nuclear family. And that's usually spelled out specifically in the ordinance, what exactly relationships are permitted to not have those inspections. And there's a lot of reasons why that is. The city of Gibraltar is not the first community to ponder the idea, for sure. There are a couple issues that brings up, though. First, a lot of times municipalities find that they're not really sufficiently indemnified just by a tenant signing off on saying that they don't want an inspection. And secondly, you can kind of realize the potential for I don't want to say abuse, but there's a very unequal power relationship, which I think Tina touched on a couple times, between tenants and landlords right? Which is, generally speaking, landlords are in control of that relationship to a very large extent. So you can imagine the conflict that arises when a landlord approaches, and maybe they have a sewer line that needs repaired, or they have a leaking roof that needs repaired, or they have some other large capital cost that's going to happen at their rental property, and they approach the tenant and say, well, you know what, I was gonna raise your rent $800 next year, but you sign off on this, I'll only raise it $100, you know, we'll go from there. And there's really nothing stopping them from doing so in a situation where there's a waiver like that. So also the frequency of inspections, I think it's important to realize that there's a reason why cycles are set up. There's predetermined numbers of years that inspections need to be repeated within, and that's because conditions change in rental properties. I think anybody who's been a homeowner knows that from year to year to year, things are going to change. Repairs are going to need to be made. You know, there's wear and tear, be it reasonable or, you know, issues from tenants on a property. And that's going to be an ongoing process. And that's why that's the way it's set up is with the cycle. And really, this is one of the best ways to maintain your housing stock in the city because that wear and tear is going to happen. And of course, we all know that homeowners tend to do, on the margins anyway, a better job of looking after their property. But once again, landlords don't necessarily have the same incentive that homeowners have, right? Landlords in some ways are incentivized to collect as much revenue as they can from the property and spend as little to maintain it as they're forced to. And outside of a rental ordinance, there's really not a lot that a municipality can do to make sure that they're keeping up with their end of the bargain, as it were, when it comes to their relationships with their tenants. So, you know, I think council should spend some time exploring the distinction between single-family and multifamily homes. I would put forth to you that I don't really see a large reason as to why you should inspect multifamily homes, but not single-family homes. They both are, you know, tenants living in the same situation. They have the same concerns and the same needs with the same neighbors, which are, you know, the people of the city of Gibraltar. And I can appreciate the fact that, you know, people would think, well, you know, some mom and pop landlord that only has, you know, 1 or 2 properties, they're not going to be quite as harsh and punitive as a company that owns an apartment complex or something like that. But I can tell you in all honesty, in my experience, those landlords are very often the most egregious violators of ordinances. Once again, not painting all landlords with any brush, which I know, you know, when you had your study session, you guys went out your way to make sure that you know, we're not saying that all landlords are X or all landlords are Y. But I think we both know that there are those landlords out there. And without a rental ordinance, once again, you know, the city does not have any leverage over those landlords that aren't going to take their responsibility to their tenants seriously. They're always going to be willing to accept the rental checks. They're always going to be willing to, you know, take the money, but they're not always going to be willing to do what's right by their tenants. So with that, I would also, you know, I think we should talk about the process, how the enforcement of these ordinances play out on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. On the whole, it's largely focused on compliance, not issuing tickets, not issuing fines or being punitive to landlords. And that's really the heart of all code enforcement at municipalities. Everything that a municipality does should be focused on willful compliance, not forcing people to do things, but giving the people in your community every opportunity to do the right thing and come into compliance. And that's what we strive to do when we set up the processes that we're going to use to enforce this ordinance. But ultimately, you know, the most important thing is that the building department has the full faith and backing of this council, because we're going to have to enforce this ordinance. And as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of pushback. And as the legislature, as the political leaders of your community, your support is going to be pivotal in making sure that it's done effectively, efficiently, in a way that benefits the community, for sure. So,
I'd like to say two things there. One, you mentioned voluntary compliance. We had a letter from Laura that asked for approval for the third, first attempt, a letter, second one, a threat, third one, put a sticker that says "Do not occupy" on the door. That seems to vary from your idea that you are looking for, voluntary compliance. It seems to suggest that there's a little bit of arm twisting. Secondly, when it comes to the, you mentioned several times about landlords being financial, everything's financially motivating for them to do whatever they're doing. Is it not also financially motivating for you, for you and your company? If our rental inspections were $25 versus $300, is it not financially beneficial for you to be doing these and pushing these rental inspections?
yeah, so two things. Firstly, I think the process that you laid out is a graduated process. There's letters sent, there's warnings given, and then ultimately, when the compliance doesn't happen, is when, properties are tagged. If modifications need to be made to that, that is, totally very much understandable. As far as our company is dedicated to making Michigan communities safer, to making sure that municipalities have the tools that they need to enforce their ordinances. There is no law mandating us to do this, but there are ordinances mandating landlords to come into compliance with the law in your community.
So you guys are a nonprofit?
No,
Oh, you are a for-profit company.
we're a private company, that's correct, yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I think right now, just out of respect, this is more, I only invited Sam because he's a building department. Council, do you have any issue with Tina asking a question, or do we want to keep that for public comment? Any issue? Okay, Tina, please.
Well, my question is, we brought McKenna here, correct? On board.
Previous administration, but yes,
We
absolutely.
brought him here because we couldn't afford
I know
him.
Trenton used to do the inspections for Gibraltar, and that no longer is happening, correct?
At a very high level, there seems to be a gap in these inspections being pursued, which is why we're now facing this, which is a part of this change curve, right? So as the inspections were being pursued under McKenna, right, it started triggering some feedback, some of which was, this wasn't happening before, why is it happening now? So that's the reality we're
And so
facing.
that's my question, is when Trenton was doing this, we had to pay Trenton. We pay, so I know it's not my turn, but we pay for a service. And these inspectors are supposed to be qualified inspectors, which I'm assuming you're bringing to the table, right? So whether it's we're paying the left hand, the right hand, the back hand, whatever, we're paying people for their time and their services that are supposed to be qualified, and we had no issue doing it for Trenton. And if Trenton's not gonna provide it, if we don't have a building department here ourselves, someone has to. So if we're not gonna put up the bill to pay for our own building department and our own inspectors, which are they're costly, they're not cheap. That's why we didn't have one. That's why I think we fell apart with Trenton. It's not cheap. The services you provide are not cheap. So,
Tina, and sorry, since she wasn't at the mic, Tina from Public was commenting, and please step up to the mic if I'm incorrectly summarizing, was commenting that we were paying Trenton previously, albeit with the caveat that a lot of this wasn't probably being done as thorough as we're now doing with McKenna. And so she was commenting that the inspectors cost money, whether it's Trenton, whether it's McKenna, whether you hire as a city your own inspector, their work, their expertise costs money regardless. That's what Tina, did I get that?
yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure for those that are not here in the room.
Speaking out of turn, but I think that just needed to be addressed, but.
Okay. Sam, thank you for the perspective. Council, we need to consider this, which is why I led with the opening discussion, right? There's part one, which is Does council motion tonight to tell McKenna, go pursue inspections, which would involve sending a letter, right, as an initial step, because right now they're on hold. They've sent it out to all the multi-units per the direction. They're on hold on the singles, right? So council could have a motion to go pursue them, right? The other layer of that is, what is the data telling us? Which is kind of part two of this equation. What's the enforcement? How extreme is the enforcement taken? Is there a sticker placed on the home of do not occupy? How much pushback are we getting, right? To me, they're obviously absolutely interrelated topics, right? But I don't know how much, we don't have a lot of data on the second one, in my opinion. So the question becomes, do you take your language that you have today and do you motion to get McKenna's guidance to say, go send letters to all properties? And then, for example, we could request updates from Sam and the department on, here's the responsiveness, here's the concerns, and then you could all give further discretion on the enforcement, meaning how high do we want to go? Do we want a sticker place of do not occupy in a home? That's up to you to provide this direction. Council, we need your guidance. So I'd like to please have council contribute to this discussion.
Well, isn't all right that we already have a lot of language in our ordinances? So we have where you, the rental inspections, and they pay for that, and I think we should continue that. I don't think we should have a difference between apartment buildings and homes. They're still rentals, and we still want to protect, you know, the renters too. Now our, you know, how they do that, now that we can talk about, maybe give them a little more time to get inspected. I know it's going to be hard, so many all at once. I mean, once it's done, then they get on a schedule and then we rotate it. And the reason we do have him, and you're right, Tina, the reason we did was we couldn't afford the building department, so we went to Trenton and everybody was everybody was having a fit about, because they weren't able to get here in time to do the inspections. So people were waiting to get stuff done and get the permits and all that. And that's why we brought you in to kind of, to help that situation, because it was bad. We were getting a lot of complaints.
But that's the same situation that we have now, in that, you know, when Brandon explained it when he was here, he wanted a rental inspection, said, okay, if I'm gonna take a day off, I'd like for it to be on a Friday afternoon. And they said, no, we don't do inspections on Friday afternoons. We only do them on Monday and Wednesdays. All right, gosh darn it, fine. How about Wednesday afternoon? We don't do them in the afternoons. We only do them in the mornings. So we're back to that again. We just do inspections on Monday and Wednesday mornings.
Yeah, and Councilman Molnar, I would also, so our inspection windows are completely dependent on the volume of inspections. As this enforcement moves forward, as there are more inspections scheduled, we will expand our inspection windows, for sure.
And Councilman Mueller, it's a very fair point. I had dialogue with Brandon at the desk in City Hall, right? And what I asked Laura and team was to find a way to meet Brandon in the middle, for which they did. So they expressed some flexibility to try and accommodate Brandon's professional schedule, which I appreciate, right? Heard you loud and clear on the strict nature of a window and how that's not gonna align to everybody's lives. But I hope that that would be a solvable problem and not a barrier to the discussion we're having right now.
I'd like to see multi-units every 3 years, or if there's a new tenant. So every time, if they're only there for a year and a half, but a new tenant moves in, you got to inspect it. For single-family units, every 5 years, or if there's a new tenant.
So Sam, this is a discussion with you, right? Please give your professional expertise on, and Councilman Valentine, I'd like you to just think about how you're substantiating the 3 versus 5 year window.
Well, because these when I was on the fire department, we made a lot of runs to some of these multi-unit, and some of them were abysmal. The conditions were abysmal. So I think they need inspection every 3 years.
And I would add, one of the most important things that we do and we assist in by providing these inspections is ensuring that first responders can access all these properties. I've heard so many stories from firefighters, from police officers who said, yep, we were called to property A, B, or C. We were not able to make it up the stairwell because it was blocked. There were no handrails. We had a stair collapse underneath us. So that's a very important part of these inspections, as well as making sure that there are smoke detectors, fire extinguishers in kitchens, et cetera. So the state gives some guidance as to not how frequently they can happen, but what the outside window is. And I believe that is 5 or 6 years is the very longest that a rental ordinance can wait to re-inspect. I've never come across a community with that length of time. Most communities are 1, 2, or 3 years So 3 years is kind of on the outside, that most communities are every 2 years. Once again, that's because, properties degrade, there's wear and tear on them. So I would respectfully say that 5 years might be pushing it a little bit, but I very much understand the instinct for that. And here's the other thing, and I would also fully support the notion that whenever a new tenant takes occupancy, that a reinspection is performed. But all these possible suggestions are going to involve, rewriting the ordinance to some extent, which is, as you guys know, is a complicated process and takes a lot of time to get consensus on.
So on that note, then, to that point, right, our current ordinance language, let's be very clear here, right, states what?
Every 3 years, and there's
Correct.
no
So-
differentiation between multifamily and single family.
So our current language today that has existed, right, says 3 years, right? So to his point, if you wanted to propose 5 years, that's why I was asking about the rationale for that. How did you land on 5, right? Because it's going to involve adjustment to
I
some.
landed on 5 only because I had some other interests. The one gentleman said he had a house and he's been renting out for a long time. He seemed to me like he would be a compliant person. So I kind of discovered, I thought 5 would be a little more reasonable, but I also agree in the waiver if it's family members.
Yeah. Councilman Cox?
Our ordinance already exists for 3 years, right?
Correct.
The crux of the issue is the previous administrations have not been enforcing this ordinance.
Correct.
And here's where we sit, right?
Correct.
To where residents are now going to be upset that there might be inspections but the ordinance is structured that it's 3 years. I mean,
Correct.
it's already been had, okay? My struggle is the lack of enforcement from before, right? Now McKenna is the one who is within our building department. They're reviewing these records and now are starting to send this out, and here's our commotion. So
That's a,
What we brought McKenna in is to correct the problems that were.
I understand that, but we let the problem get so far out of hand that we're at this point of
Time.
5 and 7 years or homes not being inspected, and this is the condition we're in, okay?
100%.
Good word, Fester.
I think, council, I just ask you to consider this simple philosophy, which is, as an administration, there's some new heads sitting in these seats, right? I'm not trying to live in the past. I'm trying to live in the present. We've gotten to work. We've taken inventory. We've taken action to enforce ordinance language that was not being enforced. See short-term rentals as an example of that. I feel it's our duty to enforce our language, number one. Number two, I think it's our duty to put every resident above a single resident or a small group of residents and make our decision on what is best for the city of Gibraltar. With those data points, I know we had discussions around not leaning on safety, right? And I understand the word safety can trigger everybody to want to affiliate with safety. I've been instructed and I've heard from our building department and the experience of those that have had inspections that it's not going into your home to try and reinvent your home and propose substantial financial impact. It's making sure that basic safety measures, access, et cetera, are addressed. I feel strongly that we should be doing that for every rental. I really do. And I haven't been given the data to the contrary. I understand it's difficult for some new people that are not used to getting the inspection done and are now having it happen. But if we apply what's best for the city of Gibraltar, do not put an individual over what's best for the bigger picture in the long term, enforce our ordinance language as it is written. If we want to revisit that, that's a bigger discussion. But I'm asking for council to consider those data points and what's best and give guidance to McKenna to enforce our ordinance and perform rental inspections every 3 years, no matter if it's a multi or a single. And that's my headspace. And I'm obviously open-minded to the bigger picture. I'm obviously open-minded to looking at other data points, but I haven't been presented with any other data that would support not doing that.
Okay, I would like to make a motion, just to have McKenna pursue the ordinance, to actually follow what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, everybody else seems to have that in their mind. It's 3 years, we don't want to change the ordinance, we already have this, it's safety. I can't understand, we got rid of Trenton for a specific reason. Now we have a new building department, we need to follow it. I make a motion for
second
McKenna
it.
to pursue it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? I think if we're asking you to enforce the ordinance language, that means taking step, which is to send the letter, right? And start interfacing with the rental properties, right? I would think it would be very important for us to capture data. So we'd like reports. Perhaps we can get a report every council meeting, which allows us to assess, are you getting responsiveness? Perhaps share any qualitative feedback from those that you're interfacing with. Mentally, I don't like the extreme of a do not occupy sticker being slapped in a home. But we got to work through this change curve, and I'd ask for data to help support that change curve in context of the path ahead, if council's open to that. Chief Tingway?
On the reports, I think it's probably important that we start getting at least a monthly report from the building department anyways. How many permits they've issued, we should have something maybe in our council packet at least monthly. I mean, there are service they're providing to our community. I think your body should be seeing what they're doing monthly, whether it's inspections, permits, everything. I think we kind of, because they're an outside unit, we don't see that. That's just my thought.
They actually do send that with their invoice. I get it and review it thoroughly to make sure that we're getting billed correctly.
The previous administration chose not to include in the packets, but that can change for sure.
Can I ask, who's going to enforce these ordinances? Is it going to be the ordinance officer or is it going to be McKenna?
Yeah, so it will be us and our building official. When it gets to the extent where there's been repeated noncompliance, that's a discussion we can have with public safety about pursuing ticketing and stuff like that. But the vast majority of the work, all the notices, all the mailings will be performed by us.
Well, what authority do you have to do that?
We serve as the city's building official.
I think the importance to me of the data is because I feel like for the reasons mentioned, this is the right path to take as a step one. I want the data to inform what's the feedback, what's the responsiveness and compliance, right? And again, like I said, mentally, I don't like the thought process of a do not occupy sticker or somebody financially reinventing their home. But I think the important piece is to take this first step to get the data to council every step of the way, for which we can weigh and give you guidance on the pathway from enforcement to completion.
So the way our charter reads is that the city engineer is the code official that is over the top of the planner and over top of the building department, and they answer to the city engineer. Unfortunately, we don't have a city engineer filling that role. We have a civil engineer that handles projects only. So right now, we have a gap in our administration as to how we handle overseeing the building department. We don't have that piece of the puzzle that our charter assigns. And so taking that on yourself without the authority it's something we should work to rectify. And I think we've got processes in place that we're trying to work towards that.
I think it's a great call out. And there's just like a lot of things, we have some bigger discussions. I think that's why I wanted this to come through council, right? Not a blind directive on what ordinance says, but like a council supported guidance. And Councilman Muller, I completely agree with you. There's a bigger picture there that we all have to weigh.
Yeah, and Councilman, I remember hearing that comment in the study session, and there are a couple nuances to that, which I'm really happy to explore with you guys. State law spells out who the code official is for different municipalities and is the building official. They may well be overseen by a city manager or an engineer or something like that, and that's kind of spelled out in the IPMC as well. But I'd love to have further discussions about that.
So let's make that as an action, is to just get more data on that topic for council. So we have a motion on the floor with a second to enforce our ordinance language and perform inspections on any rental property every 3 years. Katie, can you just read and make sure we have that motion accurately captured?
I have to have McKenna enforce the rental inspection ordinance as it's currently written.
Okay.
Is that
Any further discussion on this topic? Does that accurately capture the motion in second? Okay. Katie, I'd like to have you call roll, please.
Schumate?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulmer?
Abstain.
Okay, that motion is carried. And McKenna, it would be very important for us to have the data and the reports compiled for council. Amy, let's make sure you and I can work with McKenna and whatever reports they're currently providing. Let's make sure we have that data point for council every appropriate available window.
Yeah, I just would need to know where we would want it under, if we just want it under communications for everybody to review or how to do it. That's it.
Communications is a good fit, unless anybody has any feedback on that.
Your Honor, one thing, I don't think we actually gave them directive, and we just said that we have an ordinance that we all should follow. We didn't actually give them any direction that they requested in terms of how the process goes and, well, where the, what they asked. You know, do we provide potential waivers? Do we, what's the process? How long do we wait? All the things that you asked us to consider, we never, we just said we have a law and we intend to follow it. So I think we missed an opportunity there.
Do you have something to add, Vince?
Yeah, I think, I know there's still a number of inspections to go forward, and I was just trying to, on my phone, read through the rental inspection ordinance, but I think there is some time for them to continue pursuing some of the rental inspections that are out there and leave open, over the next couple of months to come back with some of in the ordinance itself, what those questions may be, and maybe even some definitional, if it's a single family, you have a waiver, is it a 5-year, it's those type of things. And unfortunately, I couldn't pull it up on my phone quick enough looking through it to pull out where those are at. But in the meantime, what's that? Yeah, I know, I could pull it up, but I couldn't read it. But in the meantime, I think you have enough to keep you busy, and then there's some further discussion about the enforcement aspect of it. In another community, it came to the council that they knew where the status of the more problematic ones were and what actions may be necessary to take before pursuing it, even to take to court or anything like that. So, in fact, the council would basically authorize that step. So there's some things I think we can do to again, move toward voluntary compliance, and yet at the same time make some real policy considerations that are, fitting for Gibraltar, I think, so.
Thank you, Vince. I think it's critical. My understanding from the motion that was just raised and carried, as well as the discussion, was that was allowing us to take what is McKenna that's currently on hold, not sending any notices, thus enforcing the language for single units, to allow them to send those letters in line with our ordinance language. But I want to make sure we're clear on that. That was my takeaway from that motion and discussion. But Councilman Molnar, I want to make sure we're all aligned on that was the next step. And then the bigger process, which Vince has alluded to, on how far do we go with enforcement? What is the data telling us? How much compliance are we getting voluntarily? What extreme are we taking it to? I think is an imperative discussion for council, coupled with Councilman Molnar, your perspective on the charter and how that's overseen. So unless I want to make sure we're crystal clear leaving this. The directive that I thought were given to McKenna on that motion that was carried was go send the letters to those properties that you have not sent letters to because you're on hold and looking for council's guidance.
That's not what I heard. I heard we're enforcing the ordinance that we have.
Okay, so then we'll need to,
How they carry that out is a matter of your oversight and the administrator's oversight. You have the city administrator and you have you that are in charge of enforcing these and give them guidance. I don't think that we did that as a council. I think we just said that there's an ordinance and we intend to follow it.
okay, so then council, so then is that where everybody's landing right now? Which is there's just an ordinance and there's no action for McKenna to take? I just want to make sure we're having a discussion here. My understanding was that was a motion to send notices according to our ordinance language. So do we need another motion on taking the next step?
I thought that was the step.
That's what my understanding was based on the discussion, the motion. But Councilman Molnar is raising that's not the takeaway, and I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I would then request a motion to be more explicit, which is a motion to enforce our ordinance language by taking the first step and sending a letter to all rental properties.
If that's what our ordinance says now, that's what we voted on.
So, but I would just, let's be descriptive in this language, because I don't want any council disconnect. We're here with council, asking for council's guidance to McKenna. They're on a holding pattern right now. So if the takeaway was not to send a letter based on enforcing our ordinance, let's make that very descriptive, if council so chooses.
If we don't do something, we're no better than the previous administration that didn't do
Right.
anything.
So this is in council's court. I would need a motion that is explicitly stating the next step of enforcement and a letter being sent by McKenna.
Okay, I make a motion to do that, to go to the next step, send the letters, whatever we need to do.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion that enforces our ordinance language by sending a letter as a first step via our McKenna Building Department. We have a motion by Wood, a second by Valentine. Thank you for raising the clarity ask. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
So that'll just be like the first step. We're going to come back and have to figure out how we're going to do the other steps in it, then, correct?
That's what I'm hearing, is the discussion that's a bigger picture, which the data, I think, will help inform us, right? The data is, McKenna will commit to providing that data for us, so we can understand voluntary compliance and the data that will help us inform how extreme we take it on an enforcement level.
If I could just add one thing, so the exact process of enforcing the ordinance is largely administrative decisions that are made by the building official along with the political and administrative leadership of the city. So, I mean, I think a resolution asking us to enforce the ordinance as is written was pretty clear to my mind, anyway. So, but
It's quite sufficient. Yeah, it doesn't require a second ordinance to talk about the methodology behind it.
Mr. Mayor?
But that's what we,
Administrative task.
yeah, please, Chief.
So I'm reading the ordinance, and the ordinance says that a notice may be in the form of a letter, warning notice, court appearance, ticket, or email. And it requires a notice of violation to the registered owner. So it's pretty clear in the options we have in the ordinance. It's
That's-
right there
so
in the
then
ordinance.
we're-
And then it goes on to explain that there's the violation schedule's in there, the fee schedule. There's an appeals board set up by the city administrator with the code enforcement officer. So the ordinance is pretty. Thank you.
So I'm not clear what the confusion was then, I guess. Councilman Mueller, you raised,
I just don't,
we got a second motion
I don't think
discussing.
that we require an additional motion to do the administrative tasks that they're tasked with. I just don't think it requires a secondary motion to tell them, yes, please do this versus that.
But that was the root of the discussion. We already passed the first motion, and you raised that you don't feel that that was taking those steps. That's why we took the second motion pathway.
If I may.
Yeah, please.
Through the mayor, I think that was pretty clear, the part that, you know, I kind of interjected as well, is, okay, there's other things that we need to do to work on. And so maybe that's where the confusion is, that it was somehow usurping or undoing the original motion, but no, it's okay, we still know we got some things that we gotta talk a little bit further about, and it'll be in the function of amending the ordinance, I think.
Okay, great.
And so that's how you
Very well,
understand?
yes.
So we've now circled back to the first motion was sufficient to achieve the guidance. So that second motion is not required. So therefore, Katie, I don't know if you want to vote.
I would turn this over to Kurt.
It would need to be withdrawn.
Okay, so for those that raise the motion and second the motion, or would you?
Withdraw my
you'd-
second.
Okay. Councilman Valentine has withdrawn his second. Councilwoman Wood, would you withdraw your motion?
The second one? Yes.
Great. Perfect. Katie, you need a roll for that?
Wow.
Lord.
Would you like a roll for that? Withdraw? Okay, great. Let's take a roll for the withdrawal, please.
Okay. Valentine?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Molnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes. Great. Topic settled for today with a broader discussion to be had as we carve the path forward, and just let's work together and make sure we get the data to council. The next topic is going to be our resident survey. I'd like to raise your attention to the provided council packet of information. Council, we had a great study session for which we talked about the resident survey. As promised, I followed up with a detailed description of some of the comments that you had made and some of the proposed revisions. And also put forth another question to consider, which was related to the city services and the residents' perspective on the city services they're receiving. Council, what I would ask for your support in today is one thing we talked about was engaging experts. The only expert I have professionally, I'm just concerned about, I work with them at a professional, as in through the company that I work for. An expert that I don't have any affiliation with, his name is Nathan Browning, local resident.
I know Nate.
Okay, so a local resident who actually works for a research firm, does market research, has experience in municipal survey work. In an interest of getting what is our questions and content we aligned on to an expert to assess methodology, potential bias, and how you design the questions, I would ask for that support and that next step being taken. I'm glad to coordinate with council to get some of that perspective back to council on the 22nd, our next meeting, for which we can make a decision saying, here's what council wanted for content, here's what the expert says on methodology and eliminating bias or perceived bias, so that we can lock down the survey for a game plan following the 22nd.
How much is it gonna cost us?
He is volunteer services for free at this point in time.
He's a Carlson graduate.
Again, I think I'm open to any other experts. The only other ones I know are in my professional line of work, and I just don't like to cross those lines. So here we are with an expert that is locally passionate about the topic, has experience, and would not charge us money.
That's what he did.
So I'd just be asking for your support in pursuing that expertise.
I'll make a motion. Yeah.
Great. Motion by Cosmore, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wood. Any discussion or any other suggestions? I'm open to it. I think this would just be nice expert eyes on the topic at hand. Okay. Katie, can you call roll?
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Great. So council, I'll come back to you with the feedback from Nathan, if his schedule allows, on the questions you've already directed, hopefully by the 22nd. And then we can make a decision on where we want to go. My last topic for today is under administrative updates, two things. Your last direction on priority waste and the recycling topic. Vince, if you want to speak to, I know it's under a later part of the agenda, but would ask you to consider to go into a closed session to discuss the specifics of that legal guidance that we received. So we can table that for later. I don't see any other comments.
No, I think that would be appropriate, is to just, go into closed session for attorney-client privilege correspondence.
Great. For anybody listening, I know we covered this in detail previously and gave you the backstory and how we arrived here, but short story is council motion to put this in our legal counsel hands to handle it from here. So we'll have a closed session if council chooses on that. The second thing I wanted to raise under administrative updates is for the labor negotiations with our police force. Y'all are well aware that that contract is something that we'll have to enter into discussions regarding. I'm requesting that council considers establishing a committee inclusive of Chief Tangway, Vince, or our new administrator, one council member and I. And the next step of that committee would be to engage in an initial kickoff discussion without legal representation to listen to our police force's requests as we enter the process. They would then subsequently manage the process in meetings and come to council for guidance every step of the way. So it's a committee to oversee the initial kickoff discussions with our police force, as well as to help feed council updates around what's happening with that process as the path prevails. So I guess the really outstanding questions are what council member you all would choose to have on that committee.
Well, I think Pat he's got the experience in the field. I mean, that was his background.
If I'm appointed, I'll accept it. I was gonna recommend Councilman Molnar.
I'm open for discussion at the council level on this topic. Any other thoughts from council?
I'll do it if that's what is agreed upon.
It's up to council's motion, so I would ask for council to collectively consider what they would like to pursue.
I mean, some people, they might not all know your background, Pat.
Yeah. I was a
Pat,
law
do you wanna
enforcement for 37 years, so I think I do have somewhat of a background.
Yeah.
So is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion for
So
Pat Valentine.
a motion for the committee to kick off discussions with our police force. That would include Councilman Valentine. Councilwoman Cosmore, is that your motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Second by Wood. Any discussion on this topic? Okay, Katie, can you call roll, please?
Who else was on your committee?
Chief Tangway, Vince, or our new city administrator, depending on timing for that kickoff. Councilman Valentine and I.
All right, Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb? Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes.
Valentine?
Abstain.
Wood?
Yes.
Great. Council, that'll conclude my report. This time, I'd like to hand over to council reports. Councilman Valentine, we'll turn over the floor to you for Recreation Commission.
Yeah, Recreation Director Tammy Gores could not be here today, so on behalf of her, they've agreed to a juggling show for August 28th. The ice machine has been repaired at the Cook Center. I just wanted to say that I mentioned that the Easter thing went well, and I mentioned previously all the donors, there was quite a few, but I also wanted to say that the July 4th of July, one of the bands was going to cost us a little more than we expected, and Mayor Shoemate has paid for half of it, which was $625. So I just wanted to mention that. Expense for the Easter was $1,565.63. Rotary will not be selling alcohol at the 4th of July, but I'm sure the fire department will have their beer tent. There's a Fall Fest October 12th, and the next meeting is May 7th. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilman Valentine. Any questions for Councilman Valentine on the Recreation Commission? Great. Councilwoman Cosmore.
Okay. For the Alliance of Downriver Watersheds, the next meeting is on May 21st. Then for the 33rd District Court, which I don't know, I might let Rick talk about that. There may be our budget may be going up a little bit, maybe a little more, depending on what the House bill goes through. So I believe I think I sent that out to everybody. Then for the Rotary, the Sportsman gift card raffle tickets are now on sale. The drawing will be held for September. Each ticket is $20. So if you'd like to buy a gift card, a ticket, you can contact any Rotary member, or you can see me after the meeting. I have them in my bag. And all that money goes to help the Rotary. This was formerly the gun a day raffle. In Kiwanis, we meet every Tuesday at 6:30 at the Charter Community Center, and at the moment, we are preparing for our Kiwanis Awards Nights, and that's where we're going to be honoring this month the kids, a child from each school with a citizenship award, and we'll also be presenting the winners of the 4th grade essay contest with a check to give to their favorite charity. It's a really cool night. The kids have such a heart. When you read these essays these kids turn in, it just brings tears to your eyes. They have these. We got such a good community of children. They just love them to death reading all this stuff. So, and I think that's pretty much it for this month.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the update. Any questions for Councilwoman Cosmore? And let's, if it hasn't been, I think it has, but let's make sure that your note around 33rd District Court is reached to everybody. So we'll take that as an action as well. Councilwoman Wood, talk to us about beautification in a historical museum.
Okay, beautification. We've already started cleaning up some of the areas. We will have court workers Saturday, so we'll be able to get really started on some of the cleanup and getting ready for the flowers. That's pretty much all I have for beautification. We're just waiting for the nice weather. But I do have something for my museum, and I wanted to, our museum. I just call it that. It's like my little pet project. But the museum was open yesterday, and we had a few new and some repeat visitors, which is always nice that people come back to see if anything new was added. So that's always nice to know that people keep coming back because it's not boring or whatever. They always find something, new to look at. But I want to thank everyone that say that I'm doing a great job with the museum. It's enjoyable, it's interesting, but it's definitely not considered work. But we're coming up on our 12th anniversary on May 5th. But putting this museum together was not without a lot of research and the help of some very qualified historians. So what I want to do is thank the people that actually helped me start the museum, because that is not all by myself. I can tell you that right off the bat. So Debbie Davenport was the curator at the Ann Arbor Firehouse Museum, and she lived here. And working with beautification, we wanted to put a little history within some of the areas. So you'll see the anchor out front has a little plaque by it. There's a plaque over by Horse Island Park stating what was there, so people understand what our city looked like. And so that's how we got started on that. Where am I have to write notes here, so sorry. So we were putting a little bit of history, and that's how I came across her, because she was actually a historian, and she thought this would be great to start the museum. And so that's what she did. However, she ended up having to move out of town, and so it was just kind of left, and it was bothering me, so I sort of just picked it up on my own, just, seeing what I could do with that. But I want to also thank Dick Smith from the Brownstown Historical Museum. He was very instrumental in all the when they moved the cannons, like twice. and all of the information. I mean, we were Brownstown at one time in this area, so he was very helpful. And also Jerry Wykes, who is now the retired curator from the Lake Erie Metro Park. So without these three people, I don't think the museum would even have gotten started. So I just want to put those names out there and thank them. And I will, like my next report, I have so many other people to thank, people that donated. And so I just want to make sure everybody gets their fair share of the credit, because it's not just me. I just tape the things to the walls. So, and that's pretty much trying to add a little bit of beauty and culture to our city. That's all.
Well, Councilwoman Wood, I know I speak for myself in saying that you've done a phenomenal job with that museum, and thanks for acknowledging all the parties that made it possible. And I'm sure there's so many that were not listed, but we're very lucky to have that.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
started with those
You did a
three,
really good
so.
job.
Appreciate all your time and energy spent making it what it is. It's special. Any questions for Councilwoman Wood?
Yeah, when is your beautifications cleanup day?
May 11th, second Saturday.
Thank you, Clerk. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Cox, talk to us about Planning Commission DDA.
Planning Commission and DDA from March 19th. I was absent from that and on vacation, but from the notes that I see out of the meeting minutes, the Planning Commission is sent to a recommendation to City Council to adopt the zoning ordinance language for an M1 and M2, eliminating the M3 with the eliminating the M3 portion of that, with the option for the 300-foot commercial frontage for parcels exceeding 10 acres in size, and no options for RV or special use. So the Planning Commission has set that recommendation to us, and I believe the attorney has an item on his list to address that. Okay, so that's the Planning Commission side of it. The DDA, several things were accomplished. They added a resolution of the Gibraltar Downtown Development Authority supporting the City of Gibraltar's request for the Congressional Directed Spending Program. I'll comment on that again at the backside of this. What else was approved? There was an authorized to purchase an installation of bulletproof glass window and counter and speaker in the dispatch center for the police department. The DDA awarded DJ's Landscaping for landscaping maintenance in the DDA district for a not to exceed amount of $3,200. 4 dog waste stations for the DDA district were purchased at that, or authorized for purchase at that point. There was an amendment to the entertainment budget for the 2024 4th of July event. And to follow up with the DDA supporting the City of Gibraltar's request to receive funding under the Congressional Directed Spending Program, and that's to replace the bridge at Gibraltar Road over the Franken Poet Drain, so the Middle Gibraltar Road Bridge. So those are the items that were addressed at the Planning Commission and DDA.
Thank you so much, Councilman Cox. Any questions or comments for Councilman Cox? Great, appreciate it. Councilman McNabb.
I have not much to report, still waiting on Mr. Garza to get back with me. Tomorrow I will meet with Mike Overwater, who's back, and we're going to discuss our first meeting, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And that's related to the weed harvester discussion that I know Councilman McNabb has been keeping everybody in the loop on. Any questions for Councilman McNabb? Councilman Molnar.
Just a reminder about the upcoming fishing tournament on April 20th, 7 a.m. If you haven't signed up yet, sign up soon. It's a good time. We've had over 100 anglers there last couple of times, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be the Gibraltar Culture event. There's anybody from this area that's into the fishing and the environment that we have here in town, hopefully will be participating, and it kind of is the core that is out there fishing every day. And yeah, it's a really exciting event. It's for a good cause, and we'll be out there on Saturday, April 20th. And even if you don't fish, you want to join us for the fish fry, be glad to have as many people down there that would like to attend.
Awesome. Thank you.
For the fish fry, will you be selling tickets that day? Prior to the fish, just,
Just show up and eat fish, $10.
okay.
Where's the fish?
It's Captain Jim's, I'm sorry. Yeah, Captain Jim's. Don't park in the community center parking lot.
Great, thank you, Councilman Mueller. Any questions or comments for Councilman Mueller? All right, you might see a new face, or maybe a familiar face, but a new face to the chambers. Love you to hand it over for your report, and if you don't mind, just give it a little introduction and why you're sitting next to me.
Kurt Kobolak, obviously I'm one of the partners of Pentacrude and Kobolak. Mike Curley has done a stellar job, but he is in his downslide of retirement. And right now, as I indicated, he's probably sitting home at now, very relaxed and having a good evening. So I am now taking his position. He has a lot more hair than I do. It's a lot more gray, but he is going to give me guidance along the way because obviously he's been part and parcel of Gibraltar over the last few years.
Appreciate it. Turn over to you for your report.
All right, so there's only one item under the report. It's the first reading by title only of ordinances M1, M2, M3 zoning districts. And Mayor, if I can have a motion, and then I can read it into the record.
Yeah, so council, you're looking as Councilman Cox alluded to, related to the planning commission recommendation, the broader discussions related to our master plan. Our city attorney is requesting a first reading this evening. Can you just perhaps give the council a bigger picture guidance on what happens next and how this process will prevail?
And actually, as Councilmember indicated, it's obviously, it's a recommendation from the Planning Commission, but in order for it to get in front of us, the ordinance has to be amended. I would suggest that at the second reading, that someone from the planning side, or the planning commissioner would be in attendance, so to answer any specific questions for council. It is pretty self-apparent what's being done, but it wouldn't be bad to have the planner or the planning commission chair here as well, if that's possible.
And one thing that I've asked, Vince and I spoke about this today, in context of planning's recommendation, and Councilman Cox, I'll lean on you and working with the planning commission on this, I think it'd be very astute to assemble, obviously it's the recommendation we see from planning, but to assemble a detailed breakdown of permitted uses as it relates to the zoning, M1, M2, M3. So that's obviously a next step that I've asked for. Vince mentioned that he would take the charge on that.
Yeah.
And then it will clearly delineate before any formal solidification of the action, i.e. second reading, what you're specifically looking at for the detailed description of each zoning.
And it's also important to actually take a look at what's been done in the past and what you had on the record,
Precisely.
and then how this is being changed and moving forward for the city.
So,
Make a motion to have the first reading by title only of ordinance M1, M2, and M3 zoning districts.
is there a second? Second by McNabb. Council, any discussion beyond what's been held so far?
Isn't it the planning commission's recommendation that we do away with M3? Isn't that what I heard?
He's reading title only, but if you read the substance of it, you'll see that M3 has been eliminated, and it sticks with an M1, M2, so a light manufacturing and medium manufacturing. And I think what the mayor was alluding to is what exact businesses would fall into that criteria.
What was M3?
M3 was heavy industrial.
Yeah.
It all came about, this was obviously in our master plan before any of the new members, including myself, took place. But you remember there was a question by an applicant who was looking to have that amended for the potential of a special use at that location. I think the planning commission went through an absolving process and a long and winding process of evaluating this. And now they put it before us to act on implementing the master plan, but based on these adjustments.
And just for the record, I think this is going to link your master plan with what you want in place day in and day out, much better than what was there before, so.
And I think it's important, Councilman Cox already highlighted that up front, but if you, Planning Commission, getting into the detail, had recommended M1 with commercial frontage, but did not allow the RV park application that the applicant requested. So just for context, that's the backdrop that just took place at the last Planning Commission meeting. You're receiving the recommendation aligned with the Planning Commission's recommendation and the master plan for which the first reading takes place tonight, for which we then subsequently get you all the specifics descriptions that Vince had mentioned he would assemble, so you know exactly what goes where.
Okay.
Correct.
You have a motion, you have a second. Any further discussion? Katie, can you call roll, please?
Cosmore,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Mulnar,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, so first reading by title only, an ordinance repealing and readopting the following articles of Chapter 44 zoning of the Code of Ordinances, City of Gibraltar, Michigan, as recommended by the Planning Commission, and those are specifically Article 2, definitions, Article 3, district regulations, Article 4, general provisions, Article 21, M1 light manufacturing districts, Article 22, M2 general manufacturing districts, Article 23, M3 heavy industrial districts, Article 32, changes and amendments for the purposes of creating a new M2 district titled General Manufacturing Districts and eliminating the existing M3 district titled Heavy Manufacturing Districts in the city of Gibraltar. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our new city attorney representation sitting in chambers? Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn over to our interim administrator.
Thank you. First item is just, Amy had put together a laptop use policy for new council members that would like to have one. Just very basic provisions in it, not to be used for business or personal use. The records associated or content in there are the property of the city. Shall comply with the records retention schedule from the Michigan Attorney General's office. Also comply with the Michigan Open Meetings Act, and no use other than with council members. So, you know, you can't email while the meeting is going on, those type of things. But in general, it's a pretty basic policy for the use of, you know, a city laptop that would be issued to a council member.
Would you be looking for a motion to?
Yes, please, yes.
Vince is looking for a motion to implement or distribute for signature said laptop policy as it relates to the funding that was provided for council around these.
So moved to adopt this policy.
Motion by Molnar,
I'll support that.
second by Cosmore. Any discussion? Great. Katie, call roll.
McNabb.
Yes.
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Cosmore.
Yes.
Back to you, Vince.
The next item is just an item for review. Not looking for any action, just feedback, but essentially, you know, as we've talked about, the refuse recycling agreement with Priority Waste is scheduled to expire this August, which is not a lot of time, so time's of the essence to put some proposal out on the street. But I do think it's important for council and the community to understand that there is a big change taking place in the industry itself, and this will probably be reflected in the proposals that you receive. But most of the large companies are no longer providing manual collection of curbside material. They're now, I've had them in the past, in the recent past, say we're all going to mechanical arms and containers, of which, you know, if that's the direction, I would certainly recommend that the city have the selected vendor be responsible for distributing the new containers.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said bins.
No, bins, yes, yes. So they're going to, more than likely going to be a 96-gallon container, but I would recommend, I know that Gibraltar has had their own containers in the past, and that may be used to supplement any of that refuse collection. The second part of it would be and it'd be somewhat of a challenge, is the bulk pickup, again, has been pretty standard with a lot of municipal contracts, but the fact that now you're going to a container, they may end up having a specialized type of bulk pickup, which may actually happen on a separate day than when you typically put your refuse out there. Again, that may be part of what the manner in which they bid. I mean, they're going to include in the proposal that they have to address bulk pickup, but what's the terms and conditions? And again, a lot of this is driven by the fact that you're no longer seeing the manual collection take place at curbside like you have in the past. So there may be some special provision. They may want to know in advance where they're going, what they're picking up as part of that. Again, part of it is don't be surprised. It's a changing environment. Recycling and collection and disposal. I'm looking at probably considering a couple alternatives. One is to provide a 96-gallon container by the contractor for curbside collection to be picked up once every 2 weeks. Again, there'll be an added cost with that, but I do think what you gain by it is those that are passionate for recycling will probably more than likely provide a much cleaner, less contaminated load going to recycling facilities than what happens with the dumpster that we've had. But having said that, and kind of segueing to it, the council will have a bid alternate to consider both, the recycling cart as well as a roll-off container, similar to what we've had in the past, with the understanding is that the roll-off container will provide, when the invoices are submitted, verification that it went to a recycling facility. Yard waste, again, just specifying, I don't anticipate anything different with that than what you have. I do think it's important to have a 5-year contract. This allows any new vendor to amortize what time they need as far related to the carts they're going to provide, staffing, and even if they end up purchasing any new collection equipment associated with it. Include some annual cost adjustments for what that will be. And I'm always open to, if you're happy with the vendor, provide some options for renewal subject to both parties being agreeable to that. We need to specify that disposal of refuse needs to go to the Riverview landfill. It's just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere else. We do have a commitment with that, 3-year commitment that was approved this past January. And then just in other senses that the refuse millage, because of the Headley rollbacks over the last, 30, maybe 40 years now, has reduced that statutory 3 mil levy to just a little under 2 mils at this point in time. I'm getting concerned now we're at a point where it may no longer be sufficient to cover the cost of eligible services under that statutory millage, and we may end up finding our way into some general fund subsidy for that. So the intent just to get a little feedback from council. I'd like to get this out in the next within the next 2 weeks. Schedule in early May a pre-bid conference so that if there's any questions that they can be resolved at that point. Submit any bid addenda if necessary, and then hopefully by late May have the bids in with an award maybe in late May, 1st of June for sure. So doesn't give them a whole lot of time.
Would it be all right to make a motion that we do the RFP for our waste management and our recycle management now?
I don't know if you need a motion. I think if you want to, that's fine. It's fine, but I just wanted to give you the background. I think the consensus has been, to move forward with it.
I'd like to make that motion that
Okay. Yep.
you begin the process for the RFP for our new waste management and recycle management.
Council, there's a motion on the floor, obviously in context of what Vince has put forth today. Is there a second for said motion?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Councilwoman Wood. There's discussion that I think Vince was hoping to get some input on. He's laid out a lot of detail for you on how that could be structured, financial consideration. So any feedback, guidance for Vince?
Just that we see a finalized RFP before it gets put out there.
I could probably do that for the next meeting. It needs to get out fast. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll put that in.
Amazing. Good call. So, council, any further discussion on that? All right, Katie, can you please call roll?
Mulnar,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Hosmer,
Yes.
McNabb.
Great. Motion carried. And Vince, thanks for bringing that RFP to council for next meeting. Back to you if you have any other.
2 items I just want to talk about, and both of them are, well, actually 3. One is related to a very good discussion we had with the Infrastructure Advisory Committee related to the surplus bond issue proceeds that remained within the DDA bond issue that was approved and issued last year. The project cost came in substantially lower than what the amount of the bond issue. Katie's, not Katie, but Amy's estimating probably about $750,000, $800,000 is where the discretionary amount, pretty substantial. And so there was good discussion with the Infrastructure Advisory Committee. we itemized, I think, 7 or 8 different areas that those surplus proceeds could be levied. The significance of it is that all of them are in the downtown master plan, either directly, indirectly, but they weren't contained in the bond authorizing resolution. So Amy got with our bond counsel. They will have a resolution for the Downtown Development Authority at their meeting next week, and I anticipate on our meeting on the 22nd that it'll be brought forth for the city council to consider approval as well, and that'll free up the projects associated with the surplus proceeds that exist, so.
It's fantastic.
The second item is, been some discussion, and I know with the Horse Island Bridge, we had a good discussion related to having Collins Engineering come in and provide simply a scope of work as to what it would take to do an engineering analysis, whether it's feasible to, restore that bridge, that historic bridge. We did receive a grant for its replacement, but I think there's a sentiment is it salvageable? Can it be, restored and back to a function, to an order that allows for it to continue in its place? So that we're looking at with our Infrastructure Advisory Committee, meeting with them on April 18th, Colin. And again, the purpose of it is to discuss what the scope of an engineering service would look like to make that determination. So there's no commitment or anything like that. It's just, we got to have a good understanding of what the engineer is going to be looking at and how much time and effort and cost will go with it. But I think the committee was very supportive of that direction as well. So, and we may end up posting it publicly if we end up thinking we may have a more than a quorum, or having a quorum of council members, just to be safe. Done this in the past where, because it is a pretty significant issue for the community to address. So lastly is just thank you. I've enjoyed working with the community, appreciate the support. You got a lot of good projects going on, all of the things we're talking about, and so, I'm certainly more than happy to help with the transition, guidance, with a new administrator, as well as, helping to keep the momentum that you've established with a lot of the direction and that has been going on. And plus, it's just a good group of people here within the city itself that I've enjoyed working with. So greatly appreciative of the support and confidence to continue on in that capacity, which gives me more time to do some things in the summer also. So.
We're very grateful. Thank you so much, Vince, for all the updates. Council, any questions or comments for Vince before we turn it over to Clerk Tomasic? Clerk Tomasic, floor is yours.
Thank you. I have 3 items tonight. My first item is I would like to purchase 2 new tabulators for our Election Day voting. Per contract, Dominion Voting Systems is Wayne County's vendor for voting equipment until 2027, and this contract was implemented in 2017. Because of the contract, Gibraltar is required by Wayne County to use Dominion for our election equipment. We have 2 rather large elections on the horizon for 2024, including the presidential election in November. So I would like to upgrade the tabulators we currently use in the precincts. We have 2 precincts on Election Day. Our current tabulators we've had since 2017, and I'd like to upgrade them to the latest version called ICP2. We had one of our machines it stopped working at the presidential primary election. I did have a backup, which was great. I was able to quickly, smoothly implement it with no disturbance to the process or the vote or the results. So I was really lucky to have that backup. However, I would like to avoid the risk of that happening again with the 2 big elections coming up in August and November. So I would like to upgrade our tabulators. We already use the ICP2 for early voting and absentee. They're terrific. I love them. But we have to use those in early voting and absentee. We can't use them for the precincts as well. So I would like to purchase 2 new tabulators. The cost for 2 tabulators with shipping would be $10,000 $2,057.04. The money is within the budget in the my elections budget, and the quote is attached.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Cosmore, is there a second for the motion?
Second?
Second by Wood. Council, any discussion?
Yes, I have a discussion. This says it's budgeted under elections. How does elections get their money? Is it general fund?
Yes.
Transfers from general fund to elections?
It's in general fund. It's one of the many accounts that are under the expenditures for it. And Katie's very good about keeping within her budget.
And it is important to have these machines, so, I'm there. A little bit of a panic when that one broke. Thank goodness it wasn't like a presidential election that day. It would have been a disaster for what would have been.
Any further discussion?
Is it mandatory for us that Wayne County tells us that we have to use Dominion?
We have to use
You have to use what they tell you to use?
Yes.
Council, any further discussion? Katie, please call roll.
Schumate?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Thank you.
Back to you.
All right, my next item is to get authorization to attend the 2024 Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks Conference in Traverse City. This will be June 18th through the 21st. It's an annual clerks conference. Awesome event, similar to what Amy will be attending in a couple weeks. Chief just attended one, and so did Mike Anderson. Great networking, training event. I've gone the last couple of years, and Cindy has gone for a long time as well. So I am looking for permission to go to that conference. It is budgeted in my election, or education account. It is-
Motion to allow Katie Tomasic to attend the
Thank
Michigan
you.
Association of Municipal Clerks Annual Summer Conference.
Second.
Second by McNabb. Any discussion, Council?
It's always good to keep training, continue to train.
Just for the record, it is $400 for the conference, and then $195 a night for the hotel, with taxes and fees.
I'm sure a great networking with fellow clerks, too.
Yes, I love it, thank you.
Katie, can you call roll?
Valentine?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes.
And lastly, our second council meeting in May falls on Memorial Day, so we need to reschedule that, and I was proposing to reschedule it to the next day, Tuesday, May 28th.
Council, can you take a look at your calendars?
Nobody wants to do it, I'll make the motion that we move the council meeting from May 27th to May 28th.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Wood. Council, need discussion? Okay, Katie, please call roll.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
Yeah.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Great, motion carried. Katie, anything further for your report?
Just real quick, wanted to point out our spring citywide garage sale is coming up next month, May 17th through the 19th. You can sign up to be on the map at City Hall or online. It's not required, there's no fee, but if you want to get some advertisement, just come and sign up. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Clerk Tomasic?
Katie, when is Shred Day?
October, it's always the third Saturday in October, so I believe it's like the 19th?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any
Yeah,
further
October
questions?
19th.
October 19th, did you say?
Yeah.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Thank you, Clerk Tomasic.
Thank you.
Treasurer Arp is not in attendance, so no update for this evening for Treasurer Arp, but I'll pass it over to Finance Director McEwen.
I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot. So the first thing on my list is a memo on how the budget process works. On the May 13th meeting, I will present the budget for 24-25 and give you a general rundown on what is in each account. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, they can be addressed before the final budget is adopted. I would like to hold meetings with any council person that would like it, and I can do 2 people per day. Unfortunately, I just got called in for jury duty, so May 6th does not work anymore, but I am available May 7th or May 8th. I can also be available on May 10th. We will need to hold a budget hearing before the adoption of the budget. In the past, this has been held before the May 28th meeting and adoption of the budget. I'm recommending we hold it on May 13th in case we need any changes to be made. We'll need to adopt our millage rates at this meeting. On May 28th, we will have our final presentation of the budget for 24-25, and that goes under the mayor's report. So at that point, it's kind of just, we've already gone over the rundown, addressed any questions, anything else, and he's just presenting the final budget because it is the mayor's budget. Our budget has to be adopted at that meeting per the charter. So that's why I want to, if anybody has questions, I want you guys to come in, talk to me, let me know, comments, concerns, anything like that. Once the budget is approved, it can and more than likely will be edited. This is common. This happens with just about every single city. I'm sure Vince can attest to that. We will have 4 reviews. It'll be October, January, April, and June. Each review will require a motion to approve the revisions. The budget is a guideline and it is common for it to change and be adjusted. So, and that was all that was on that.
Amy, I just want to thank you. I like the concept of these sessions, if you will, with council, so that we can all have eyes on what is being proposed, what is historical perspective, what does it mean, as an informative process as we work through the cycle. So Amy, thanks for scheduling those 3 sessions with council. I think it's going to be incredibly helpful for all of us to learn.
I wish I could have kept May 6th, unfortunately. I don't want to get arrested.
Back to you for item B.
All right, so my third item is the third quarter budget revision. I've attached it. There's a couple of accounts that have been adjusted. If there's decreases, I highlighted them in pink. If there's increases, I highlighted them in blue. Looks like I'm saying boy, girl throughout this entire budget. I guess just is there any questions, comments, any thoughts on this? Anything anybody wants me to go through?
I appreciated the detailed explanation as well as the memo you put together highlighting kind of the key observations, so thank you. But council, please, now's your time to flag any questions. I like the color coding as well. I think it's a good visual dissection of what's happening.
Yeah, I try to make sure that you can see like right away, this is all the revenues, this is all the expenses. So,
I think they're, and quoting the finance director's words, minimal in nature. Good news is we had some adjustments, such as our Shuba bill dropping for the first time since she's been here, so.
yeah,
positive.
that was excellent. That's really positive. I'm hoping to see, we are still pulling from fund balance in the water account, but if we see a big enough Shuva look back, that might go away. So fingers crossed.
You know, I was going to ask you something too, and this is just because I got this from my insurance company. They're starting, they said they're, for their roofing, they're having to take like a rider. And I talked to a couple of friends who was insurance agents, and they're telling me the same thing for your homeowner. So I didn't know if the city had got that information. That's going to happen with the city on our buildings that we insure. If we have to take like a roof rider.
I haven't seen that. Usually they send me a,
A few days ago, and then I had called if it's something they're doing new, because I guess a lot of the
I can,
expensive, the roofs are expensive, so they're wanting you to take like a rider.
yeah, I can definitely reach out to MML and find that out.
I'm sorry, I
because-
missed part of that. I missed the first part of what you were saying.
I said I had gotten, the letter I had got from my insurance company was talking about, asking about buying a roof rider for my homeowner's policy. And when I talked to my friend who's an agent, she goes, a lot of insurance agents are gonna start doing this about roofs because they're so expensive. They're gonna be adding the cost, which makes, I know we got a few buildings we insure, so that would help our building. 'cause I'm a
Cost of the
little surprised.
permits that are expensive.
I think we just replaced one of our roofs too, so,
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that. Like, oh,
They got eaten up in the storms.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what
Comes out of
happened.
their pocket, they're gonna get it back somehow.
Yeah.
That's great feedback, and I like the next step, Amy. Did you need council's action? Please advise.
I do need a motion to approve all the revisions in this third quarter revision.
So council, Amy's looking for a motion to proceed with revisions related to the description she provided.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Wood. Council, any discussion? Katie, please call roll.
Hex,
Yes.
Asmar,
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Great. Amy, back to you.
And as always with the budget, I'm pretty much always in my office. Sometimes I look a little bit more frazzled because I'm running around pulling bills and stuff, but I am there. If you have questions, please feel free to knock on my door. Dorothy comes and visits me all the time. And I welcome anybody else. I'm very welcoming. My third item is a third quarter transfer resolution from water operations to general fund. This is a typical $80,000 one. The last resolution that we will do at the first meeting in July is going to be probably either 80,000 or less, because I do an audit all of that to make sure that the amount is correct. So I would need a motion to approve the third quarter transfer resolution from water to general.
Motion to approve the third quarter transfer resolution from water operations to general fund?
Motion by Cox. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by McNabb. Any discussion? Roll for Katie, please.
Hasmore.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
And then I also have a third quarter transfer resolution for major and local roads to general fund. Usually I only do 2 of these, but with the way raises were falling with the DPW, it made more sense to do 3. So I would need a motion to approve that.
Amy's looking for a motion related to this transfer resolution.
Motion to transfer to major and local roads.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Cox. Any discussion, council?
Yeah, okay, so it's $8,361. Just one or
From each account.
from each account, okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Because when you read it, it kind of didn't sound that way. Maybe it's just the way I read it.
Okay, great. Katie, can you call roll, please?
McNabb.
Yes.
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Hasmore.
Yes.
My next item is the regular pension contributions. I usually do these in April to make sure that the pension company that we go through, which is PNC, has time to process these checks and get them into our account. Besides the first amount, which we determined and have set up and say that we're going to do per our, I have to fill out an audit report on. The other 2 items are both told to us by our actuaries and our actuarial reports that we receive every year regarding our pensions to show that they're fully funded and to maintain that fully funded status. I would need a motion.
I'll make the motion to, that we approve the annual employee pension contributions.
Second.
Motion second by McNabb. Any discussion?
Amy, all this stuff is funded?
Yep, all of this is actually listed out in the budget.
Okay.
Great. Any further discussion? Katie, can you call roll?
Mulnar.
Yes.
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Hasmore.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. Amy, anything else on your end?
Okay, so I was just going to speak a little bit about IT. Chelsea and I did a deep dive audit on all of our invoices and are now receiving a credit from our IT company in the amount of $3,150. Another company that I do regular audits on all of their invoices is McKenna, and I go through and literally make sure all the permits are matching. I check accounts, I check the permits and receivables, everything else to make sure everything matches. And one time we even had a credit card for $20 that didn't process through, and Mary and I were pulling our hair out trying to find it. So that's how serious we take that. So just to let everybody know. And I will not be here at the next meeting, but there will be a resolution regarding Section 19 funding that we will be getting due to storm damage that Vince will be handling on my behalf. The application for it will be getting turned in this Friday for us to get funding. It's mainly going to be for overtime and some of the usage of the chipper that we had to use and damage that we took on city buildings that we had to pay for.
Great. Amy, thank you so much as a part of the broader initiative to take a critical look at invoicing and backup documentation. So great to find those savings on the IT front and the accountability and broader professional services. Thank you for all you're doing. I might make a suggestion. I know this has already been about 2 hours and 20 minutes of meeting time, and we have several more items to go, including a potential closed session. I'm seeing Councilwoman Cosmore. I think council should consider a 3-minute recess to use the bio break opportunity, as well as maybe refresh that blood flow so that we can make sure we knock out the rest of this with engaged minds.
Yes, I'd appreciate it.
We need a motion to recess.
Motion for a break.
I'll second it.
Motion, second. Council, can we be back in 3 minutes, which would be, let's call it, just to be safe, 52 after the hour?
We're gonna have to share the bio room.
Katie, can you call roll for that recess motion?
Schumate.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Wood. Cox.
Yes.
Cosmore.
Yes.
McNabb. Molnar.
Yes.
Mics are still running.
Council mics are still running. Please return in 3 minutes so that we can be fresh for the rest of the discussions. Thank you. I was looking around and I saw the faces.
We use a lot of consent agendas broader than what we do. I'm gonna train.
There's just some that you just don't like any type of,
Yeah.
and I know they're trying to ensure that nothing gets missed, but you could do consent for all the budget meetings, all the contribution, all those things. That's not necessary.
Actually, I was thinking about it just, I was gonna say something, but heck, it's been going so long, I said, when you do the budget resolution, just authorize the finance director to make the transfers.
Right away, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do it that way for the obvious reason that it's, there's, if it's in the packet and other kinds of people see it, they can always pull it off.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but for the most part, to make the contributions to your pension, you're gonna go, well,
We have to.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, we have any discussion about it, so things like that, I think are,
We could, tighten it up a little bit.
yeah. I mean, there's, and like I said, like with the reading the ordinance, that's really a clerk's job, because the clerk is the one that's posting it, publishing it, doing the whole thing, so she needs it in the minutes. And if it's brought by her, then she knows it's being done systematically.
Yeah.
Even though it's drafted by the attorney.
Yeah.
Really, it's, so.
It's interesting that when I was in, I've always had the clerks always done the intro for the ordinances.
And you're right, it probably just was the way it was stuck there.
Yeah,
And then,
Just how things happen.
but you go, our office drafted the ordinance, but the planning commission and planner were the ones that actually put it all together. And just took their direction. The intricate details of it, I wasn't part of that discussion.
Yeah, clearly, Mayor and I were ready to jump into it. No, Rick missed the last one. He's on the planning commission, or the representative. I think he's actually on the planning commission. Yeah. There was a town once where I had a city manager who was on the planning commission because it, I don't know if it is under the new, or I say newer, it was 2006 or 8, Michigan. In the old days, I mean, you could have the city manager on the planning.
You could.
Can you still do that?
I don't think you can anymore,
Yeah.
for the whole obvious reason.
Yeah.
Chief, are we your packet? Yes, sir. I'll look into it. Usually it would be that you have your own counsel. Look at it just to make sure. But I'll look into it. Yeah, so like, yeah, and so usually you're gonna get into the details, the weeds of it. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Stand up.
All right, council, if we can get your mics back rolling, please.
Yeah, it's awful.
All set. Thank you.
No, I'm fine, thank you, though.
Yeah, I'll take
Hey, you're welcome.
I got this one out of the water fountain. It tastes like,
Oh, yeah.
Council, if I can ask you to get those mics green again, and we'll wait for the remaining council member to return. And council, in order to get back to the agenda at hand, we need a motion to return.
Motion to return to the meeting?
Second by Cosmore. And we'll get Katie to call roll, and we'll get back into our agenda with Chief Tangway.
Valentine?
Yes.
Wood? Yes. Cox?
Yes.
Cosmore?
yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes. Chief Tangway, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you tonight is the Police Department report for May 20th to April 3rd. Before I get into the report, I wanted to bid shout out to the Fire Department. On April 4th, we had a medical emergency in our dispatch center, and it was a scary situation. And, our administrative assistant, Mike Anderson, went right to work and covered the dispatch council. It was one of our dispatchers who went down with a medical emergency. Chief Kane, Clint Nemec, Cindy Simon all responded, along with Ellen, is it Suches, am I saying that? Such, and they all did a fantastic job, and she is now back to work, so that's the good news. So I just wanted to thank them for their efforts on that day, and, it's probably something you don't think about, that you'll need to call your emergency services to your dispatch center, but it can happen, and I think we proved we were successful in the operation and everybody was safe, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to go through the report here. We had 176 calls for service, 18 written reports, 14 tickets, 5 adult arrests. The school resource officer was on spring break, so he had 0 activity, and their detective bureau had 1 case assigned to him. Mike Anderson attended the Administrative Assistance Conference. He said it was a great conference, reported to us today that he made several good local contacts, so that's awesome. Sergeant Trush is in week 3 of Staff and Command, which will be this week, April 8th through the 12th. Before you in this report is our calls for service years comparisons. Police dispatch overtime report, 33rd District Court fines and costs have not came in yet. Records Bureau activity report. Ticket statistics from January, February, March, and April. Ordinance officer activity report, and city staff payroll and fire department payroll for March. I have no action items.
Chief, just thank you for all the work you and the department are doing. Thanks for the shout out to the fire department as well, the collaboration there in support of our people. So, council, any questions or comments for Chief Tangway?
Good job.
Well, if there's nothing further, Chief, we will hand it over to Chief Kane.
Flew through that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excuse me. First, I'd like to thank all the support from the City of Gibraltar employees. Last week, my brother had passed. It was very nice to see that kind of support you get at a place of business. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that. All right, the fire department activity, we had 25 calls. 24 of them were rescues, 2 were fires. One was an auto aid fire. There are no mutual aids. As you can see, John Wood will be off for a while. Wave with his hand. So we wish him a speedy recovery. Our ambulance state inspections are set for the week of May. Breakfast with the Easter Bunny was a great success. Thank you for all that attended and were there. We had 2 different Easter Bunnies that day. One was about a 6-foot tall one, another one was about 5 foot. something, so. The next council meeting, I had sent an email to the mayor and Katie, the 22nd of April. At the beginning, could I please have a few minutes and introduce everybody, the Fire Academy kids that all passed, have a little ceremony for them. Won't take that long. Won't prolong the meeting any longer at all, so it should only be about 20 minutes probably. I've attached a monthly report from Sergeant Heather Jones. And then that concludes everything for the fire department, except for a lot of you might have seen the fire trucks out today. The SCBA's that we put on for breathing air have to be inspected every year, and that's what they were doing. So if you have any questions for the fire department, I'll answer those. If not, I'm going to brief a little bit on the lead and copper stuff for the DPW.
Any questions on fire for Chief Kane? Please, let's hear the briefing on the lead front.
Some of you might know that we were asked to do a quick trial period in March to see how many lead and copper lines we could get done, inspections. Jerry, Clint, and Ellen, they joke because I called them rock stars at one time, and now they keep calling themselves that. But they went through 53, they checked 53 homes, mainly on this island, on the main island. And we came up with 7 lead lines. Let me rephrase that. We came up with 10 lead service lines. 7 of them were complete lead from the water main to the house. 2 were from the house to the water shutoff in front of the house, and 1 was from the water main to the water shutoff. So that was 7 in a month period. They have kept track of everything for the month for Amy. I believe they came in when I was off last Thursday and talked to you. Did everything look good?
Everything looked good, yep, and I followed up with questions that day, every time they came in, so.
All right, good. That's a good thing. That was our biggest test, was to make sure we had all the paperwork. We had it timed down to the minute for you. Amy had given us a 15-minute grace period. We broke it down to roughly about within a minute of how long it took us to do them. I have a spreadsheet. The girls in office have made a spreadsheet of all the homes in town from 1980 and prior. And we have to do 20% of, according to the state, we have to do 20% of 1,500. Well, we don't have 1,500 in that span on that spreadsheet. So we have to do 20% of what you have. We have, and I will bring it up for you. You can all go and look at this spreadsheet if you'd like. It's a lot to print out, but it's actually broken down of how many are inspected, how many are done, how many are left. There's still a little bit of, because there's a lot of houses, like Island Estates is on the list, and I know that was built after 1980. So we can take those off. So roughly it's about 1,000 homes that need to be checked. Since we started doing this a month, 2 months ago, 145 of them have been done. Those are the ones that we've just done this year and a little bit of last year, but we are slowly putting in the ones that we did last year, last summer, before all this got a big push. We have to have 200 of them done by August. And I should have this filled out, now that I'm back, we should have it all filled out probably the end of this week, and we'll have 200 of them done to turn in to Eagle by August. And then we'll have to do 20% next year of the remaining ones, 20%.
Are you saying you've already replaced?
No, we
200?
haven't replaced any of them.
Oh, none's been replaced
Nope,
so far?
I'm getting to that point.
Okay, sorry.
Hang on. I've been talking to Vince a little bit about this. There's not really an easy way to judge what it's going to cost us. Some lead service lines are from myself to Amy away. Some are from myself to the street away, so they're different. Vince and myself, we figured out that I'll go to all the ones that we've found that are lead. I will measure them, and then we'll bid it out by the foot or linear foot of what it's gonna cost, correct?
Yep.
And then we'll get a better understanding on how to do it or when we're gonna do them. By April 1st, we had to fill out our paperwork for the state of Michigan of any lead lines that we've replaced, and we replaced that one on Point Drive within a year. Some of you remember that. That's got submitted. So we are going right along or following right along with the lead and copper stuff that we have to do. I know a surrounding city is shuffling their feet a little bit because they're trying to find contractors to locate all 800 of theirs for them by August. So good luck to them. That's what I'll say is good luck. The contractors that are out there doing it, this is nothing against the contractors, but I'm going to tell you a little difference in how we're doing it as compared to the contractors doing it. Everybody knows that, like I said, the thing you can run over with your lawnmower in front of your house, the water shut off. I'm going to use the Penn as example. The contractor that they're being hired, was in Flat Rock, that got hired, was excavating right here, 18 inches on both sides, like the state says, taking a picture, covering it back up. Whether this was above grade or below grade, they were still covering it back up. You're not even noticing if it works or not. We are actually pulling the water shutoff off, making sure it works, putting it to the proper grade, getting our picture. So if one of our residents call and say that they need their water shut off really fast, we can actually shut it off and we know it works. We've come across a few that have not worked, so that's very a good thing. One happened to be Jim's Galley. The rod had moved, so you couldn't shut it off at all, so. So we're finding the broken ones, we're finding some that are, if Vince could probably agree with this, some of the direction of where they are back from 8 years ago are right 2 feet away from the elm tree. They cut all the elm trees down in 80, so there's no elm tree anymore. So you gotta find out where all these are, so. And a lot of them are under concrete that people have just done on a weekend or didn't notice that the water shutoff wasn't there. So a few residents get upset because we're digging up their new concrete, but we have to do what we have to do there. So we make a little hole, a little bag of concrete.
So let me, if I can just kind of carry on with what Bill is saying, is that, as you know, that there's a grant for $400,000. $72,000 was for engineering, of which essentially hiring a contractor to do what our DPW is doing, and probably, and as Bill said, maybe not with the same due care that these guys are showing as far as checking make sure the shutoff actually works and getting it back to grade. But the other part of it is that they're doing is also taking the picture, getting all the GIS points where this is located, and putting it into our GIS system so they, in the future, somebody will know exactly where it is. And the last part of it is rather than going out having an engineer do all the measuring, Bill can do that, and then we will save on the engineering cost, bid it out ourselves, and then Bill will more than likely, or one of the guys, be out there inspecting when the work, actually measuring it up like an inspector would for an engineering project. So we think we can do most of it in-house, cheaper, better care, in going forward with it, so.
Make the money last longer.
Exactly, get more lead lines replaced.
One last thing with the lead and copper rule here. If you don't recall, or don't know, there's 4 spots we are instructed to check for lead in a water line. One is where your let me rephrase that, where your water service hooks to the water main. That's 1. 2 are at your water shutoff, that's in front of your house, which is 18 inches on either side of it. They consider that 2. And the other one is at your meter. I've been working on this for a while and finally got it working with the help of Fishback. I brought this up at the department head meeting, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to push this out to the residents. What this is a QR code or a website to go to. It's like the Survey Monkey that we've all been talking about. People can go on, they'll go on there, there's 3 questions. One, they're asking your address, what the line is, if you know it, lead or copper. And the third question is not really a question, it's a picture. So you take a picture of it, hit submit, it automatically goes to our GIS system, which is on this or in the computer in City Hall, and it populates it to the address that they gave on the question 1. So that will eliminate one part of checking everybody's meter in town, where some people don't let us in, or the time frame they're not home. So we'll give them the option of taking the picture. I think this will work out really well. Worked out well on the west side of the state. I've been to classes where they're doing this a lot in communities, so it's getting a lot of participation from the residents that they know. Some of you might not know where your water meter is. This is going to be a good chance for you to know where your water meter is and take a picture of it. So I'm not exactly positive where we're going to put this, the website or Facebook or wherever, but we'll get this out there and people can send us a picture and we'll get that side of the inspection done as well. That's about it.
Well, Chief Kane, thank you for the update. Would request that you continue to provide update like via reports to council on the progress. Per your point and Vince's point, I mean, sounds like we have a more cost-effective method to accomplish this need. And thank you for all you and your department are doing to make that happen.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to second that too, that's something that we've been talking about for a year or so, about trying to reduce our reliance on unnecessary costs, burdens on these things, and to see that come to a reality from you, Bill, and you, Vince, immense savings to the city and to the residents that we've experienced there and we're going to experience going forward. So thank you, and that accomplished a huge goal and a huge issue that we were facing over the last several years, and it's step 1 in a new path forward. I'm super excited about that. Thank you.
Well said.
And that one breakfast worked great for those guys.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yes. Yes. That's amazing. Thank you. Any questions, comments for Chief Kane? All right. Councilman Valentine had alluded already that Parks and Recreation Director Goris is not here, had obviously highlighted the budget. Councilman Valentine, anything you needed from council tonight related to said Easter 2024 budget and donations?
No.
Great. That would then move us on to unfinished business. Vince, any update you'd like to provide, and/or anybody else on council related to our sewer lining project?
Other than it's working, I've seen the year-end report from, used to be Camp Dresser and McKee, regarding our use and our percentage of flow is noticeably being reduced in relationship to the other 6 communities. I mean noticeably. And so I'm hopeful that the look back will be as good as it was last year, but it's a really good process. I think there's probably a little bit more to be done on, was it Bayview, probably, and that will, I think we're about 75% completed, And I know that Councilmember Wood and I talked a little bit about it and, taking longer than it should. And, we'll talk more in the future about incorporating liquidated damages into construction contracts so these things get done in a timely manner. But at any rate, it's made a big impact on.
I'll reach out tomorrow to the Rains Company and ask them why that last segment hasn't been
Yeah.
taken care of yet. And along with the sewer line, if I can recall, it wasn't just us that were postponed on that lining. I don't know if they couldn't get the liner, but there were a lot of communities that got postponed back a year or so on doing them. Unfortunately, ours has a lot to do with water that we're trying to fight and get out of there. But when there's high water, then we have to get different pumps to bypass and things like that, so.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business. This is what we alluded to earlier, council. I know it's been a very lengthy agenda this evening, but we had a motion at the last meeting to share the collective set of information related to priority waste and the recycling situation with our legal counsel. Legal counsel received and sent back what you had received via email. Obviously recognizing the confidential nature of this dialogue, hoping that council would motion to enter a closed session. I do think this will be a pretty quick, effective discussion related to the legal guidance received and how we are managing the recycling situation. So I'll be looking for a motion to enter closed session for that. Now, the nuance here, Katie and legal, I want to make sure also we have public comment. So will we be retaining that public comment after the closed session, or what's the best way to manage that for those members of public sitting in the room right now?
We have the public comment before we do the closed session?
Do that.
Typically what
Yeah, you can do that.
I would recommend we do that unless council has any objection.
especially if there's no action being taken after the closed
Correct.
session.
Precisely. Great. So if there's no objection, I'd like to open up to public comment. I know it's been a lengthy one for you all sitting in the audience. So before we go to this closed session, if council so chooses, related to the confidential legal discussion, members of public, would you like to share anything with council? Please approach the podium. Name and address. Okay, well, it's been great having you here, but we're gonna have to, pending council's motion, potentially ask you to leave. So council, is there a motion for a closed session?
Motion for closed session?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Katie, can you call roll?
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Casmore?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate? Valentine?
Yes.
Yes, for Schumate, just to be clear.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So motion carried to enter closed session. Katie, if you can, to our members online attending virtually, we're going to have to now close the AV for this confidential legal discussion, and then we'll be open to close the meeting.
I have copies of the.
Council, can you just turn your green mics off? I know Katie's going to be adjusting the Facebook.